Hey everyone, welcome to State of the Realm. A bit of an awkward start, more awkward than usual. For those of you audio listeners, you may not notice this, but our live stream is having a massive amount of issues right now. My OBS is breaking, it broke Discord at one point. So we're gonna be on this scene the entire time, even during the intro. And the outro, if I remember, I'll edit it in after the fact. But you can already see who's here, and the show's gonna be about Delubrum Savage. So that's my intro for this show, a far cry from what it normally would be. I'm one of your hosts, Mr. Happy. Of course, joining me is Sly. How are you doing, Sly? How have your Delubrum pugs been? Yeah, that's actually going to be a pretty big topic for later in the show, talking about the pugability of Delubrum Savage. And, well, whenever we have something savage or ultimate to talk about, we bring on two of our expert guests. We have, of course, the man who makes everyone want to play Black Mage, only to swiftly remind them that they can't play it, Sfia. How are you doing?
Doing all right.
That is like the best description for Sfia.
I mean, it's literally been true the entire... I leveled Black Mage and I was like, this is so great. No wonder Sfia loves it. I'm definitely going to play this more. And I was like, this is a good idea.
It's suffering. Yeah, I'm pretty sure only masochists play that job, so...
And that would be
blame
you.
Me for stopping.
How are you doing, Sfia?
I'm doing good. Good. It's early, but good.
Good. That's what the coffee's for. Perfect.
Exactly.
And the other half of a new combo I made up. Well, I didn't make it up. I kind of made it up. I made it up halfway before the show. We have Kionu, who has got his avatar, which I had to also find amongst all of our breaking stuff. Even saving your avatar to my PC didn't want to work before the show started.
At least it was easy to find.
Yeah, that's definitely the bare minimum of that. How are you doing, Kionu? How is your day going? Your Tuesday?
My good, man. I can't complain.
You can't. Okay, that's good. I'm good. I'm glad I'm the only one melting down over here.
I'm on the flip side of it, where I've been awake for like 8 to 10 hours somewhere in there now, so I'm getting a little drowsy.
I don't know that you. I debate either of you sleeping. To be fair, most of the time it's a serious debate whether or not either of you actually sleep. So. That's all there is. Well, this show, we are going to be talking about Delubrum Savage, but before we get started, of course, shout out to our sponsors. Same sponsors as normal. We have Steel Series. They do giveaways in the description of the video. We have a giveaway every month. You can win something for free worth just under, I think it's 80 USD is what we have it set to. So be sure to enter that, or if you want to check out their products, just type ! Steel Series in the Twitch chat, or just check it in the YouTube description, because that's where the giveaway will be also. Thank you to our patrons also, whose names are scrolling in the top right corner of the screen. You'll get an extended shout out later, but thank you to them for supporting the show as well. Oh man, Sly, before we even talk about Delubrum, it's weird to finally be doing lots of shows week after week after what we dealt with
right. We actually might be getting back to being a normal show now.
A weekly show.
Yeah,
a weekly show. Like, I mean, it's gonna fall apart at some point. Like,
yeah, pretty much.
But you know, that's why we started a new series, Sly. Before we get into Delubrum, I'm doing best of series now. I'm doing editing for best of series. You got to enjoy the Magic Man one, Sly. Is there any in particular that you're part one? Are there any in particular that you're hoping for us in the future, in the weeks where we may have to take breaks? Any best of Air Zivia, best of Sly?
Oh Jesus, no.
Best of Larry, best of Mary, best of Hardcore Raiders.
We need to get Mary back on. Yeah,
it depends. Sometimes he's asleep at this time, so it's hard.
Yeah, true.
Sfia's like, don't talk to me about that.
Relatable.
Yeah, relatable. For the most part, relatable. Okay. Well, we will have that on weeks where we don't have episodes. I'm releasing best of, and sometimes on weeks where we do have episodes, I'll be releasing best of. So we may have to. We got to be funnier, Sly. We can't make best ofs if we're not funny.
Good luck with that, Happy.
Wait, me? Come on now, Sly. When I was going through those episodes, you were making some dad jokes.
You are the dad jokes like person. You are dad.
You made some dad
darkness.
jokes in those Magic Man highlights, man. You had some dad jokes in there. You had the steak jokes. I caught them. I was like, I need this in here.
God damn it. And I love how everything, like watching watching something from years and years ago, everything's already happened. Like we fucking manifested it or
Scythe,
something.
Beastmaster, Blue Mage, he just predicted it all. So if Sfia and Kyo had a best of, what have our conversations been like, Sfia and Kyo? Because for me, they just kind of blend in with our normal conversation. I don't know that we had anything like super spectacular that happened on any of our raiding episodes.
I honestly can't remember virtually any of our shows. It's just, I'm pretty sure I get on here and I completely dissociate.
So memorable.
Yeah.
We are so memorable.
This goes in the highlight right now.
Yep.
It's like, I don't know anything.
That's one.
I think the length has a lot to do with it. It's just there's so much compacted into these sometimes that
that's true.
It's hard to remember specifics, but yeah.
I'll find them. The best I have is Howard just telling people they're gonna die. That's all we had him on. No, Perez actually. It was Perez telling people he's like, yeah, you just get hit on your Blue Mage and you just fucking die. That's it. That's it. That's the closest thing I have. That's all I can remember. All right. Well, while I'm doing my ocean fishing, which I am indeed doing as we're speaking right now, as I work towards my 3 million point achievement. Thank you to Ventus for queuing us in. We have what I would like to keep to a 2-hour show, but it's actually a pretty hefty topic. I believe both of you were on for Baldessian when we covered this a while back, if I recall. I don't remember who we had on for that show. Did we have you on, Kyo? I'm positive we had Sfia.
I was not there for BA when it was released.
Oh, okay. So it was
probably not me.
I know we had Sfia. I don't remember who else we had. I feel like we had somebody extra.
Was it Cleese?
I don't know that Cleese would come on this show. He probably would, but I don't know that we've ever invited Cleese to this show. Somebody go look. Somebody go check our Baldessian Arsenal episode. But there's going to be a lot of parallels drawn to this because we're obviously going to be focusing largely on Delubrum Savage itself. But first of all, patch 5.45. It's not just Delubrum. It is Delubrum Normal, Delubrum Savage, Resistance Weapon upgrade, Save the Queen storyline, the Sky Steel tools for anyone who that's just something major for them. So before we get specifically into Delubrum related stuff, guests. How were we feeling about this patch overall for a 0.5 patch? Were you disappointed? Were there things you wish had gone a little bit better? Were you satisfied? What was the overall takeaway from the activities over the past couple of weeks?
My biggest problem is that for a 0.5 patch, it has a lot of content, but they put 2 pieces of like what I consider important battle content on the same launch day. And when they do that, you got to make a choice.
Yep, we sure did. And we sure did make a choice. One of them requires 48, and the other just requires 8. So the decision was a non-decision, in a sense.
Yeah, that was definitely super disappointing. I was looking forward to the patch-up Blue Mage stuff. But nope.
I mean, we still can look forward to it. It's just, it just didn't do it the day it came out. It's not like it's gone forever. We still have a chance to do it. You guys any of you done all your Blue Mage stuff that is like doable before Savage at this point?
I mean, I have all the spells and all the quests, but I haven't done Omega.
Okay. Yeah, no, other than Savage,
Same
you've at least like gotten everything else out of the way, so it's just like, hop in and get Omega done.
I'm probably at the point where I can do that, yeah. But it seems like in Party Finder and stuff, most people are just going through and doing the Blue Mage log, getting every duty done possible. That isn't the Savage ones that you got to queue in for.
Right, yeah.
But I haven't done that. I think me and Kyo are probably in the same boat where it's like, we've done all the stuff that you can do on your own.
And I'm in the same boat as well.
I mean, a lot of the spell learning is community stuff, but yeah, I usually leave the blue log stuff till later because it's nice cleanup work. It's just stuff to do once you've burned out everything else. So,
yeah.
Content for later.
Sly, how are you feeling about Blue Mage, Sly? I don't know. You never really cared about it much.
I mean, I care about it in terms of like, actually leveling and, getting spells. Like outside of like going into Savages, I don't think we have a lot of people on Primal who really want to go in and do the Savages. So it's tough for me to kind of, get a group together and, say, hey, I want to get these spells. We have to go to the Savage and make a PF, and it's drier than HGTV at like 3 a.m. So I can't do anything.
I wasn't ready for that joke. Wasn't ready for it. That was good. I like that slide.
As an aside, I just want to say I think Blue Mage is fast approaching, if not already, like the most complicated job in all of Final Fantasy XIV, and I think that's awesome. Like
You
there's
like
so
that?
much, I think there's so much subtlety to it, and there's so many freaking buttons that are all relevant to push that it can be a little intimidating, and I love that about it. Give me that complexity.
Yeah, Kyo, you missed the Heaven's Word DPS era of healers, so that in
Oh,
no
yeah.
way surprises me. That you love the complexity of it, because it's both complex and not complex. Let's be honest. It's essentially how many of your most powerful abilities can you put into Moonflute at the end of the day, but it's still very, very busy, because if you screw it up at all, you feel it. You feel it a lot.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, while there's an optimal way to do it, when you roll through long fights and cooldowns are coming up at different times, you really have to put some thought into what order do I push these buttons? When do I save these buttons? Downtime really changes everything. You have to think on your feet. And I just think I love that there's a lot of moving parts in Blue Mage. It's just fun.
Yeah. Well, we probably won't have level 80 till the next expansion, and probably not till a decent chunk into the next expansion. I'd assume a 0.1 or a 0.2. But I agree in that just don't release it alongside anything else ever again, please. Please put it out on its own, and or at least alongside something like Skysteel Tools that is divergent from the interests of.
But that's still a choice. Like
Yeah.
that's still a choice. Some people would have to make is whether I go ham on crafting and do Skysteel Tools.
Yeah, but there's a right and a
Blue
wrong
Mage.
decision in this case. Right now, there's only wrong decisions. You're screwed either way. There's a right and a wrong decision if you're picking between Skysteel and Blue Mage. The answer should definitely be Blue Mage in that case.
Oh,
Yeah.
Wow.
yeah, if I may, just before I get off the subject,
Yeah.
Blue Mage, like just to illustrate the complexity of it, I think Blue Mage now has more AoE heals than White Mage. Just AoE heals. Like, it's crazy. Like, you got Angel Snack, you got Stotrum, you got White Wind, you got Gobskin. It's just like, we don't have very many of those buttons on White Mage. It's crazy.
That's
All
because
these
you're a
options.
pure healer.
I mean, it goes with the other healers, too.
Though, to be fair, no healer has an AoE Asuna anymore.
True.
So, that's...
Ripsaline.
Ripsaline, indeed, Ripsaline. So they got that going over the other healers as well. Hey, maybe Sage. Any last comments on Blue Mage before I move us onward?
It feels like they've fixed tanking, I think. I can't say for sure because I haven't done it in content.
You still have to
but,
cast Dragon Force, though. It still is a casted
Right.
mitigation.
But you're not. Your entire gameplay isn't Blood Drain and Diamondback now, so I'm pretty sure people are going to be happy about that.
Have you used the Rampart
Chelonian.
counterattack?
Chelonian,
Yeah, dude, it's awesome.
Chelonian.
So it's Cold Fog.
It's like TBN and Sentinel together, kind of, in a sense. It's like the TBN exploded at the end of it.
And then you get to counterattack for 1,000 potency.
Yeah. Too bad we
That's
can't
great.
do Ultimate with it. That's a big thing. All three of us were looking forward to doing Ultimate. All three of us, I don't think, ever were like, oh, this diminishes the achievement of people doing Ultimates, which seems to be their primary concern with not letting us do it. Was that a concern for you guys at any point as Ultimate tier raiders?
Just that I would just worry about Blue Mage being so good that they don't want to take regular DPS anymore. They would want to take Blue Mages. That you'd have to restrict the queue that you're either doing all Blue Mages or all not Blue Mages, and then you're fine. That's my only concern.
Similar.
I don't know
thoughts,
why
Sfia?
you.
Oh, sorry. It went quiet, so I moved it along.
Literally exactly the same, though.
Okay.
I think that stopping people from doing content is really weird. Same sort of mentality I have about Unreal Trials. It's just strange. It doesn't really make much sense to me. Let us do the fun stuff, please.
Titan is the fun stuff for now, and then he won't be fun stuff anymore.
You know, I was just thinking about Blue Mage. I bet you if they recoded that Doom to be max HP cures it, you could Angel Snatch through it.
Probably.
Oh, yeah,
I
sure.
bet you could.
You could.
All you need to do is time a white wind. All you need to do is
Yeah.
time a single white wind out of 8 people.
True.
Yeah, that's it. That's all it would take. One person
hard.
getting the timing right. No, it's not that bad.
It's kind of hard.
I do it.
Have you tried? Timing
Yeah.
heals of that is really awkward.
I guess timing heals when it's just there's nothing targetable and there's no cast bars or anything. It's probably pretty
Yeah,
awkward.
there's no indicator for when you're actually going to get stunned, so you're guessing.
Yeah.
And that's awkward.
All right, that's fair. That's fair. In that specific case, it's kind of tough. Yeah. All right.
Because
Well,
when we were first progging it, I was trying to do that because we didn't know it was an forced
Yeah.
LB. So
we did get a full HP cure at one point and realized that wasn't the answer when we were doing it.
yeah,
I remember that.
We got at least a couple. I think the tanks were 100% topped and they still died. You're
Yeah.
like, oh, okay.
It's like, that's not it. That's not it. Okay, well, it's nice to talk about Blue Mage. I'm sure we'll have to revisit that topic more in depth at a later date, especially if we get a more official note on where the future of limited jobs is even going, since that was not present at all from their announcement stream. Nothing about the predicted potential Beastmaster or, you know, timing for the next Blue Mage stuff. So that leaves us with the remaining main piece of the show, the thing that some of us have spent probably more time on than we maybe intended to, in that of the Save the Queen quest updates, with specifically Delubrum Reginae. Now, Delubrum, we should probably start with talking about normal mode, just briefly, because it is relevant to our conversation about Savage to some degree in regards to seeing the mechanics beforehand and comparing it to BA's singular difficulty. And it's, I'm just glad it's great. They finally released the 24-man in Shadowbringers. They really held us, they held it back. They just said, you know what, we're not gonna release one at all. And then they were like, but now we finally get it. And
Oh my god.
and it's definitely worth the wait. And so I'm looking forward to 6.x when we have a 24-man series again, because this was a lot of fun. Okay. So
Stop it. Stop it.
listen, it's got one more chance, Sly. One more chance, and it's going to make us New Game Plus 3 times to get the true ending.
I know. I know.
I'm waiting. I'm waiting for it. Oh, man. Okay. Seriously, though, Delubrum Normal. We've all done it.
Yeah.
Whether it's been suffering or with people who can press the essence button, which I'm not going to lie, when we get to talking about Savage is going to be a question mark anyway. So, Kyo and Sfia, that hurts their souls more than saying the word essence and Savage.
What people not using essences?
Man, isn't it great in Savage when you can't go back to the beginning and someone says, oops, forgot my essence.
Oh
get
boy.
there.
We'll get
Oh boy.
It was a pain after many other pains because early on we didn't care.
It was a pain after about 12 hours, I'd say. That's about it. But
Yeah.
for serious though, we did get an extra 24-man in this expansion. In all seriousness, in that of Delubrum Reginae on the normal difficulty. I know I've run it like 30 something times already, more than the entirety of Shadowbringers 24-mans up to this point. Sly, because I know you have a little bit more experience with the normal mode than the Savage. You've done some pugging of the Savage. You've seen through to certain parts. You. How have you felt about Shadowbringers 24-mans again, if you'd like to refresh everyone? What boat were you in on the near raid up to this point?
The 24-mans themselves?
Yeah,
Good.
like enjoyment
decent.
levels of Shadowbringers 24-mans up to now.
Decent. Like, it's just story that sucks. But in terms of like the 24-mans itself, it's fun the first time, and then you kind of, like, why do I want to go back?
Yeah, that's fair. Okay.
Yeah.
So with Nier versus this 24-man, obviously it's a completely different format in regards to the way that you progress, the way that you power up. Obviously you have the essences, the action. So Doing this one, is it been kind of the same boat where it's just still kind of just a 24-man to you, and it's like, I'll go in, I'll get it done, I get a weekly, and then that's kind of just where it chills out, or has it been more or less attractive to you?
It's definitely more attractive than your conventional 24-man. It's definitely it's a little bit more involved than your regular 24-man. I will say my first Delubrum Normal experience was kind of soured because I queued in via Shigeros and Gangos, and we didn't have a healer at all. So it was a lot of death, a lot of like self-healing. Luckily, I did bring like potions and shit, but it's like a lot of potion, a lot of bloodbath, second wind, and still dying. But yeah, like the second time, I was like, okay, I'll make a alliance PF for this, and we will actually get people. We'll actually get people with healers to go in. And the second time it was a little bit smoother. But even with the sour first run, I still enjoyed it. Like I still had fun. It was really good to see some fun and unique mechanics. And we'll get to that later. But yeah, it's definitely more attractive than any of the conventional 24-mans we've ever seen.
All right. I like the take. Yeah, I think we've all had that Delubrum experience. Now, to be fair, though, the actions do let you bypass that, but
who thinks to bring them?
Nobody uses them. Nobody uses them.
Right.
That is my number one complaint.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
My
know
number one complaint about normal mode.
So either nobody uses them, or you have 3 DPS with healing stances and healing actions, and you have 2 healers in the party, and you're like, what?
I'm not even talking about healing actions. I'm talking about actions at all.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like no plate bear for survivability, no nothing.
No skirmisher, no
martialist,
martialist, no anything.
Nothing.
Let me tell you,
nothing.
I went back-to-back runs. One with a 24-man group that had just done Savage. We got out, ran a normal mode. Everyone essenced up, everyone popped off, and it was done in 21 minutes. Right? And then I went in straight again afterwards, solo queuing, and it took 80 minutes.
I got you beat. 90.
90
for the first run. 90.
It is obscene. I mean, for
dying.
a first run, because everyone's learning, yeah. But this was when it was on farm. This was, days in. It just goes to show the difference that the actions can make, and people not bringing them are just hard griefing because they're so strong.
Especially Essence. Dude, Essence is like, please use essences. Please. Anything.
I make 8-man parties and I go, if you're joining my 8-man and I don't see a DPS essence on you, I'm kicking you. I straight up tell them, like, I don't care if it's your first time. I want you using a DPS essence. Get used to it, please.
I've been inviting some friends along, and I'm just like, use your pure essence. You need to carry. Every one of us that's in this group needs to carry.
See, I don't
pure
like using pure essence. Well, I guess it depends. I go healer, so I prefer to go Ether Weaver because the damage total, it's 80% or 96 instead of, 30, I think, from Divinity. So, but on a DPS like a Duelist or, something along those lines, obviously is a much different story. It's funny you mentioned people not bringing essences. Someone in Yell Chat, in one I was in yesterday, right at the start says, hey, if everyone could please bring their essences, this would go a lot faster. And somebody else in Yell Chat goes, shut the fuck up. And the guy goes, no, seriously, like, it helps a lot. And then the other person's like, yeah, no, seriously, shut the fuck up. And he goes, the guy who started says, you're holding us back. And then that other person replies, I don't think I am. Now, I would never use a third-party program to detect people's DPS in a 24-man. But if I were, I may notice that somebody's 3.5 times lower than my DPS, and it's the person who isn't using the essence. So, and I'm on White Mage, so use your essences is, I think, the point that I'm trying to make, because
use your essences, and if you don't,
but I didn't. Unfortunately, I didn't do that, so I would never possibly know, because then wouldn't. It was bad.
Yeah,
it was real bad. That was only about a 45-minute run, though, still, because I had my own 8-man party in that one.
It's still just, it's wild to me. Just like I queued for a handful after we finished progging Savage, and it just every single one was at least 6 people in the party without essence. At least day 4 or 5, and it's just, what is going on?
But that aside, I mean, I make the joke about only having 124 minutes because I enjoy the format of this, even with the fact that people can end up without essences and stuff. I enjoy the format of it significantly more. I guess kind of goes with the same thing I felt about Eureka and Bosnia, or Eureka and Baldesion, and now Bosnia and Castrum, is the freedom to be able to be that super powered healer with all the offensive actions, or the tank who's bringing Cure 4. The idea of it being there excites me, and every run I do, I enjoy, and I try to strive to do a little bit more in that run. I don't know if you guys felt that the pressure to, not so much pressure, but the desire to really want to try hard overcoming you way more than when you're cruising through traditional 24-mans.
Oh, for sure, because the cap is so much higher. Your contribution potential is huge in DR compared to a regular 24-man where you got your kit and that's it. But fully being able to bring these really powerful, rare skills with you, you can practically quintuple your output if you play properly, compared to if you go in with no actions. So, yeah, it makes you want to try hard. It pushes you, or at least people that care.
Not only that, but it feels like you have a lot more impact, not necessarily just on output. You can, almost WoW like. Your party needs a healer, you can just spec swap essentially, and you can bring Savior and a couple of cure actions, or you can just go as a pure Black Mage and bring Cure 4 and solo heal a party with it, as long as you don't have a tank that's tanking the boss. It feels like no matter what situation you get into, especially in normal, there's always a way with actions to like circumvent it, no matter what the party makeup is. It's really well designed in that regard.
Even from a healer POV, there's a lot of really supportive, influential actions you can take. Swapping between either being a DPS or a pure healer, or a mix of both. Like you can fill that slot.
Kyo, you're telling me you've never done the Lost Incense Plate Bearer White Mage tank?
I have not tried it, but I believe that it works.
I did it in Castrum, and it is fantastic. It works. It works the same, and it works pretty much as well in Delubrum as well. Other than Incense not being great, if anyone has, it's impossible to keep aggro if anyone leaves tank stance on. It's impossible.
I believe it.
Yeah, it tries to be tank stance. It's not. It's not quite up to that part yet. I'm sure Sfia with a Lost Flare Star would pull aggro at the start instantly over a Lost Incense.
In about half my runs, we were sorely lacking a tank where I would often see the boss just murdering DPS and healers, so I don't think in most runs you'd be struggling to get aggro.
Yeah. And in normal, you can return to the start. If something goes wrong, you can go fix it without just bashing your face against it again and again without making any adjustments. But as all 4 of us can attest, that doesn't happen. Ever.
Yeah.
So you done any crazy combos in normal mode yet with any of the left? Because you probably have a few clusters left over from Bosnia that you could grab some of the new stuff with.
I actually used my clusters to
on the mount.
Get fragments.
Oh, no, on fragments. The fragments for I guess you had to because you were doing some Savage attempts with the Discord.
And so for me, like really, the cycle is if I do need more, just go back and cluster farm and then get more fragments and then just be ready for Savage. But yeah, no crazy combinations because I'm still learning. Like the main thing is fucking bring your pure essences, you filthy degens.
We haven't even started talking about Savage and he's the first one to say it.
And I'm like, okay, I'm going into Savage, and like for first trash pull, I can understand. If like we're stuck, I'm not gonna waste a fucking pure essence. I mean, yeah, it would increase output, it would help, but if like one side's like consistently fucking up, I'm just gonna chill for a minute until we at least get to Ravana Unreal, and then I'll pop a essence. But it's always in my kit. That's the thing. It's always in my kit. And a few other things too, like to kind of help things go along, just in case. But that's first and foremost, and I at least knew that. Like your survivability for like everything is highly dependent on that essence. So bring your fucking essences.
Sly really wanted to get that out because we're still on normal mode. He's like, bring your pure essences. I don't care what we're talking
but yeah,
about.
But for normal, for normal, still take a fucking essence. What's wrong with you? I take a plate bearer just
at
for
the end of the day.
Survivability. Yeah, I take a plate bearer just for survivability and like a few other things that like, you know, make my damage output good. And nothing crazy. It's just conventional. Gets the job done.
Sly, we have some crazy shit. I want you to try some of the crazy shit once we start talking about it. Because Savage made us realize there's some dumb shit that they added with the new stuff. Some of it dumb in a good way, and one or two of them dumb in the dumbest of ways, I feel.
Okay.
The actual difficulty of the normal mode, regardless of the essences, it's mostly on par. I think we agree that outside of people forgetting essences, mostly on par. Did we feel the gimmicky bosses kind of threw people more for a loop here than they do otherwise in normal modes?
Define gimmicky.
Hot and cold.
That's a good mechanic. I love
it's a good mechanic, but it's
Katy
gimmicky.
Perry.
It's good, but it is 100% a gimmick.
I love Katy Perry as a boss. She's fun.
Doesn't she have a song called Hot? Yes, that's her, isn't it? I don't listen to music. I was thinking because Sean Paul's Temperature is what comes to mind for me. That's the one. But yeah, Katie. Yeah, okay, that's fine.
I think the bosses in normal mode really felt like the normal mode of Trials.
Okay.
Not as if they were 24-man bosses.
Is that a good or a bad thing when you put it that way?
Or
is it just
I don't
analysis?
know. It's a thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's necessarily good or bad, but going through them, it really felt like instead of doing like a 24-man, it felt like I was doing back-to-back normal mode trial bosses.
Interesting.
Just in the design, and the 24-man bosses usually don't have pass-fail mechanics in them, where if you fail, you die. Whereas Trials do have that a lot more often, outside of like, knockoffs.
I think 24-mans have leaned, at least I can think of a few that are outright, you do it right, do it wrong, or you're completely screwed. But I think back to like Weeping City, like you're not getting zombified or getting like standing in the thing to not get zombified or things like that. That was do or die for things like that. But I guess it's not always super common, but there's definitely some 24-man ones that just Thunder God Sid.
Yeah. Well, TGC didn't actually have that many one-shots in it. It was people failing multiple times to die.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But I mean, that's Doom stacks and Delibrum's similar, right?
Yeah.
You fail multiple times to die. Not everywhere. Some of them are insta-kill, but
yes,
there's a lot of Doom stack.
Doom stack that lowers your damage dealt. That is not pleasant if you have one for the entire fight.
Yo, big fan. Yeah, from a healer POV. Stack with Vuln stacks.
Yeah, we're gonna get into like how, in terms of punishing, like certain things are in this, and like that and actual deaths. We'll get to that later because I definitely want to get your take on punishment.
Punishment.
So,
it's punishing, all right.
Also related to normal mode, something that I found really interesting as well is that it heavily incentivizes you running this more and more. Like, it wants you to run this content a lot. There are mounts that come from it exclusively, a hairstyle which is going for tens of millions still, I think. It's tied to the relic. You get all sorts of stuff, and it
item level 510 armor. Also, there's a full armor set.
It makes you money. It's the only way to get the silver coins. It's odd just how much it's saying run this repeatedly, which I wouldn't have expected, because when you think of BA, there isn't really a normal mode equivalent, but you would have assumed that everything that could have come from a normal mode of BA would have been from just Eureka Greater.
Yeah.
Yeah,
which
by
is
the way,
a
going back
pretty
to
big
that-
contrast to the Savage drops.
Going back to that, what was there any real reason to kind of consistently like run BA? I mean,
There are a few.
Everything was tradable in there.
Yep.
So that's one of the big
Okay.
differences between this and Savage, is that all the Savage drops are like they're locked to you. You can't trade any of them, which is really bad when you're progressing it actually. But in BA it was you could get a cloth and trade it to someone who's going to use it to make a Vermilion cloak. Or you'd get the other thing and give it to someone who's making their Dragoon armor, for example.
It also meant that if you weren't trading them, you were selling them or using them yourself. So if you got an AV, like I got the conditional virtue minion. I didn't get it to drop. Someone who didn't wanted it gave it to me because it just dropped in it. Yeah, it was Alice. In case you're wondering, he just said, "Here, you take it." And I'm like, "Don't you want to sell this?" And he's like, "Don't make me change my mind."
Yeah, I remember the very first one of those dropping
that
for
sounds
us.
like Alice.
Sold for 87
Yep.
million gil.
Yeah, I remember
Yeah.
the 80 million. Yeah, I was like, don't you want to sell this for
What?
80 million gil? Yeah. Yeah. Not to mention that, like, the Vermilion Cloaks and the Kieran Zosodes, whether it be a Final Fantasy 11 nostalgia boner or just straight up making someone who just started Eureka's life a million times easier by giving them access to elemental stat in the very first zone if they invest. Like, it was valuable to specifically that ecosystem. Not to mention people wanted Ozma, so you always had new people. It was very rarely a run that was just 48 people re-clearing when it came to that. So one big thing with BA, I like to say BA is Coil and this is Alexander. That's literally what happened here. BA is one difficulty. If you want to do the story, you have one choice, only one way in. This is, you got normal mode for the story. It's accessible casually, and there's rewards that almost any player wants, and then Savage is for the do or die, don't step foot in here if you don't have the balls to do it kind of design. It's just whirlwind of memories coming back, just without a jiggly ass and a manipulator.
Comparatively, yeah. Like, if you scale them both difficulty down, Y is the same amount, then you're probably looking at a very similar sort of spread. Yeah, I'd agree with you. It's a good take.
Thank you. So, and you were mentioning all those rewards. I got my hairstyle on my second or third clear, sold that. Got Gabriel Mark III working on my relic, and I think I got a gold coin at some point. So I like normal mode. That's it. I like normal mode. Okay. Oh no, chat's like, so when's the 48-man ultimate? That's the next step. Oh no. Let's talk about the Savage before we talk about a 48-man ultimate, because
that's a different level of fucking babysitting.
I don't trust 48 people in this, let alone 48 people in that. That's a feedback part that I have. Okay, so normal mode, we all generally enjoy it, or at the very least acknowledge that it's well placed in terms of the content structure. Now we have to talk about the real meat in that of Savage. Our first fully designated high player count Savage, and oh boy, did it deliver.
Oh boy.
Did it deliver that promise in every way, shape, and form? At least how I feel. Before we get into the specifics, I'll let our guest talk first, and then Sly. Actually, I do want to know how you feel about it as someone who's only approached it from like a pugging perspective, because that is actually going to be a major topic. But from my fellow Ether Raiders over here, what was the overall reception? Your overall feeling of it, looking back now to Prague and completing it and re-clearing it?
Go ahead.
I never want to organize 48 people ever again. Ever. It's not happening. Someone else is doing it next time.
It's not happening. And that's it. That's his only takeaway from,
There we go. We're
from the
done.
whole thing. Nope, never doing it again. Kyo, how about
So-
you?
I think the best place to start off would be to talk about expectations, right?
Yes.
So pre-patch, when we were all thinking about Delubrum Savage, I mean, I didn't think this content. I mean, even knowing how BA was, first of all, I knew I wasn't going to miss it because BA was amazing and I missed it, and huge regrets about that not being there because I didn't think Eureka was going to be anything fancy except for a grind fest. But hey, it was amazing. So Delubrum, I wanted to be there, but I honestly did not think it was going to be this long until we cleared. This many days, this much content. Still very surprised and pleasantly surprised that they gave us that much to prog through. So even if the initial reaction was wiping a whole bunch of trash.
Can I say in counter to that I absolutely did expect that, and I had a whole bunch of people telling me I was stupid for thinking that, and then it came out and I was right and nobody said a word.
I don't remember. I think I just expected it to be the same difficulty as BA, and thus I kind of thought of it like Ultimate, where like the first Ultimate took super long because everyone was like, whatever, I'm sure they're saying whatever, it's just yada yada through it and got shit on, and this was going to be like the T or the uwu, I guess, more so, where it's like, yeah, that was still tough, but we knew we had a better idea of how to be mentally prepared. It didn't work out that way. No, it didn't work out that way.
I think my expectations are tempered by one-day tiers of Savage. I've come to expect that unless it's an ultimate, that it's going to be 1 or 2 days of content. And this was pleasantly surprising. A lot of stuff to do.
Yeah, a lot of stuff to talk about as well. Now, Sly, you didn't go balls to the wall like we. You're not that kind of raider. You don't want to be that kind of raider. I didn't say. He said it. He said it. He said it. I didn't say it.
No. And I'll say this because, again, y'all went balls to the wall. Y'all were like, fuck this. We're going 16, 18 hours a day. Primal. I'll look on the Discord. Yeah, we're gonna go at 8 p.m. this evening. I'm like, y'all want to go now? I mean, we can go now. I mean, I've just finished. Like to see something, and luckily some people actually did go in, even before the actual agreed upon time, and we saw things, and we saw how it was different than normal, and yeah, but for the most part, I guess the one thing that's difficult in comparison is actually getting people to go in. Again, it's an Uber. You gotta kind of wait on that time. They scheduled that time, so we had to wait on that time. But I'm just at the point where I'm joining any group I can, no matter what fucking time it is. It's usually late, but I'm joining any group I can to see as much as I can, and it they're consistently evening or night for some reason. You'll get some on the weekends during the day, but we're taking it a bit slower, I guess. Yeah.
I've been watching Miz do some Primal stuff as well. They've been working through, they're on the hot cold boss, which is always, I think it's going to be, I said there was no jiggly butt, but hot cold is going to be the A3S of this comparatively wide, both being the third boss and being the one that if people can't do it, it will be consistently a disaster pretty much for any group that's looking to make it through. So I don't.
Fuck that Jacob's ladder though.
Why? Come on, you don't want it, Sly?
I mean, it was normal. It's fine because you could you can see where the lines are going, but my ass, in a Savage setting, will not remember where each line goes. And I have to fucking map that shit. I have to map that shit out before. I'll have to map that shit out before we get to the Jacob's ladder. Okay, that line is gonna go right there.
Sly, you're doing exactly.
Right,
I was going to say. I feel called out by chat. The finger on the monitor, just there we go. I can just draw the line.
Line's gonna go right there. And I'm gonna just make a fucking sheet, a little cheat
There is
sheet.
a sheet.
Okay.
There are sheets out there because there's only 2 patterns. Okay. There's actually only 2 ladder patterns. Okay. But Sfia's having the same reaction I'm having, and that does not make it easier. That is not a help. It's better to learn how to turn.
Yeah, you can either learn 2 sheets with 5 individual lines that they're following, or you can just learn to draw a line. That's it.
It takes every
I
turn
have
it can
to
do.
do
Just
that.
follow the line.
I have to do that every fucking time. Like,
The only other alternative, I think, is the cursed tech, which is you target the person in your party who has the same debuffs as you, and just follow them.
oh no,
That's the cursed tech.
I will not. That gets you more in trouble than sometimes doing it your fucking self.
Yeah.
So yeah, I couldn't. Jesus.
I've seen people doing it on the slashes with the sword. That's all I'm gonna say.
Oh, that's gonna be a whole thing to have to talk
That's
about.
even worse.
Oh, boy.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I have to talk about that mechanic when we get to it, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. So, Delubrum Savage, as Sly has stated and as Sfia has very clearly expressed in his overview, 48-player Savage. Honestly, my only criticism of it is that it's a 48-man Savage.
And that's one thing I wanted to get to, because that's one thing you said. You said like it was 48 hard stop. There can't be any more, any less. Were you wanting something where like if you went in with less people it scaled, or you could sync it to less people and then go for a challenge run? What were you wanting out of that?
Sfia, you go first on this, because you organized the 48 people. You were one of the people organizing. You were the one with the biggest headache here. I just said words and people listen to me. So I got nothing here.
I personally think the only thing that should be changed is it gives you the ability to queue in with less, but doesn't sync it down. So that if you're missing people, you can still go in and like be okay. But as Mr. Happy would know, sometimes people are just late. And instead of being able to just pull someone in, or just queue in, you got to wait an hour. And it's 47 people just sitting there. You can't go in. You just have to sit there and wait.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
I wasn't late for the first time in a raid in my entire raiding career ever. No. That story's even worse, as chat's bringing up, because I woke up, my alarm didn't go off. It was set, but it didn't go off, or I snoozed it and just was so tired I slept through it. So I was an hour late, but I had to make coffee. And I only have one way of making coffee, and it's with a French press. So we waited another 15 minutes after that, at least, maybe 20. I wasn't really paying much attention to the time. The joke was that I had to fly to Brazil to buy the beans in person, and that it was going to take a while.
We thought you were harvesting them yourself, to be honest.
Yeah, that was. Yeah. Oh, and then my chat, everyone. So you ever had somebody spam Discord to try and get someone's attention? How about spamming your chat with the hydrate option when they're waiting for you to finish making your fucking coffee? Because I looked over at that, and it was literally like that. It was a million times more than what's in my chat right now. These hydrate warnings. Oh. Listen, I'm sorry, okay? I was really hoping that there was another person to take my place at the time. Oh, there it goes. Yep, now the story's come full circle. There you go. That's exactly how it looked. This is an exact recreation of what my fucking. Don't be late to raid, guys, because when 7 people are waiting on you, it's bad. When 47 people are waiting on you, it is 8 times worse, 6 times worse.
Yeah, it wasn't intended as a call out for you, Happy, but it's just an example.
As
of how,
Mr. Happy can attest, that is definitely a call.
It's just an example of how, I guess, unfortunate the system can be. When situations arise, being able to go in with one less man wouldn't make or break any of the fights, but not being able to go in because you have one less man breaks the entire group of 47 people.
Yep.
Their souls.
Yep. And everyone who's ever had to sub for a raid night knows that even just grabbing a rando would be almost worse than just going in with the one less person sometimes.
I mean, the idea was there that we could ask them just to zone in and zone out. But,
yeah.
But we
Then it's almost insulting to them. Like, yeah, listen, we don't actually want you to be there. Can you just, that's almost worse in some ways. All right, so DR Savage, 48, I think it should just be 24. I think they did it backwards. I'd rather have a 48. I'd rather just have a 24-man normal, 24-man savage, personally. If they're going to hard cap it at a number. Only if they're going to be not flexible. I'd rather have it at 24 than 48. I think it's a more achievable number on average. It just makes doing 2 different groups necessary and just as much of a headache is the big problem if you were to try and split the perfect 48. But that's my only ask. If they can't do it dynamically, like BA. Because BA did scale. If you went in with 30 or you went in with 20, the bosses were scaled differently. They had different HP and, it was clearable regardless. Not here. This is just not a choice. And it's the only decision I don't agree with.
I can see why they did it from a community standpoint.
Yeah.
Similar to why they did it for BA. You get to play with a whole bunch of new people. It makes people actually interact with other people in this massively multiplayer online role-playing game experience, which you're not really incentivized to do literally anywhere else in the game.
Yeah.
It's pretty much play with your 7 buds and you're good for the entire game.
This game is so insular around raid groups. Even 24-mans have only ever been bug content, so this was really like a meeting of the minds for a lot of different groups.
Yeah, that works
really
sometimes, doesn't work other times. It has its ups and its downs when it's this large scale. There's always,
overall a positive, even if you get some negatives.
Yeah, I mean, it's unavoidable. With more, I mean, Sly and I call it all the time. The more people you have, what do you get, Sly?
What?
More people debuff.
Besides a headache? Yeah.
More people debuff.
People debuff.
More chance for the people debuff.
Enough.
I mean, think about it this way: you have the dumbest person in your raid group, but now they make a 6-man party of the dumbest person in all 6 raid groups, and they are vying for the dumbest. and then you have to adjust to that person. There you go.
I didn't expect you to put it that way, but yeah.
New name.
New name.
Delubrum Daycare Savage.
Sly, I need your that's the new best of Sly's nicknames for content, because you have one for pretty much everything. You have people debuff the Delubrum Daycare. There you go.
Yeah. So, in regards to all these people, you have all these people. You have all these moving parts, and you were talking about culling.
Oh yeah.
Has that been an issue for any of your runs? Has that has it affected it?
If you only knew.
Ask Samurais how they feel about Macchiato having no effect.
So yeah.
Damn.
Sly, there's a few different forms of culling, and one of them is buff culling, where if you have too many buffs, just how like a boss has too many debuffs, it culls your debuffs. If you have too many buffs, it culls your buffs. So whenever there's a raid wide going out, most of the time we've got like a ton of stuff being popped, because the raid wides towards the end are incredibly strong.
Oh, believe me, I've seen. Yeah.
And Samurais would go to press Macchiato, and it would just say no effect. And they just lose it. Or a warrior goes to use inner release, and it just doesn't happen.
I dodged a triple cast and an ether in my opener. That's fun. That's real fun.
Yeah.
What Cleese is saying in the chat's relevant here, that buff culling in particular is not unique to 48-man. It's more unique to Delubrum itself, because we have so many extra buffs from all the actions that we're popping that it's actually causing it to spill over. So when you're popping the tank mitt cooldown, when you have your essence up, when you've got the Pride of the Lion buff, say for example, from the duel.
Protect, shell, bravery, your own
protect, shell,
buffs.
bravery, yeah. There's just all these extras that weren't normally there, and suddenly this is becoming an issue.
Yeah, the 48-man, the closest thing, I think they handle actual culling better than BA does. BA, you would literally lose entire AoEs. Like, you'd have to kill like a spear on the second boss, and it wouldn't show up for people if they didn't walk up to it.
I'm not sure if that experience is because I made it very clear that we don't run too many scholars or summoners, and also partly due to job changes where lots of classes lost ground effects, lots of classes lost pets and things like that. So it could have been to do with that. I haven't looked at other groups running, who might have a bunch of summoners, may have a bunch of Dark Knights, but we didn't actually lose. Well, at least I didn't personally miss any mechanic. there was nothing culled visually in the entire run, which could be system side. It could just be smarter planning.
I think head markers is the only thing. People markers over people's heads was the only thing that I actually saw actively culled. So other than that, yeah, no, this one seemed it's just the buffs just because of the lost action, and it's even more thing here because the lost action system was so vastly improved over Eureka's actions and the flexibility, the sheer number you could bring, and how effective they were for what you were doing, that it was almost inevitable. Thanos meme, just like it was awful. But as a white mage, I don't have to deal with it. I just feel bad for the DPS who have way more important buttons that need to happen. If I lose a thin air, it sucks, but it's nothing compared to losing your inner release as a warrior.
Yeah, for sure. And we learned how to cope with it with things like, clicking off certain buffs that aren't going to be useful. Like Protect isn't useful except really on tanks for most of those fights. If there's an AoE raid buster that's it's physical, it's usually not that big a deal if you don't have Protect. And for someone like who's carrying the Pride buff, which is like extra ones, they can click off more stuff like shields because they have double HP. They don't need them.
Yeah, they don't need shell. Pretty much. That's one that can go, which something I can say for most everyone else.
I think Shin made a status off macro that took off all of the shields on him, like all the different types of shields and Protect Shell. And he just clicked that before the opener or during the opener. Make sure he didn't get cold.
That's a good idea. I'm putting that in the guide. Putting status off for the pride buff.
In particular for the Pride, because their damage matters the most. So you don't want them getting cold.
Yeah, they're going to be getting Dance Partner, so that's another 3 buffs on them.
Yeah, they'll get Tether, Dance Partner,
probably
Devil
a card
Man,
from the Astro.
Cards, everything, yeah. So there's really no. Not to mention you have the ranged giving Dervish, and you have Ether Shield. Yeah, so there's way too many things happening for them to even risk it at all. They're too tanky to give a shit, pretty much.
Yeah, just everything defensive off.
And that's something that we still got to even talk about that. So we haven't even entered. This conversation literally hasn't stepped foot in there yet. We've just talked about the size of the raid and the implications that come with it. When you enter, it becomes very evident that they were not holding back pretty much within the first 5 minutes of being in there. Everyone in normal mode is used to walking up and Makoto like, how do we do this? Oh, look at this teleporter. Oh, look, the first boss. This is so cool. But everyone who does normal goes, what are these other 2 teleporters for? And this is where the tone is set. Because once you leave that first platform, you can never return. Hence our grievances with pure essence forgetters. Because we had at least a dozen runs where people pop their essences. Everyone in their party pops an essence. Everyone says they're ready with essences. And we get on to the platform. And somebody's like, I am a goober. And we all have to exit. in order to fix their problem.
And collectively, million gil is thrown away from a worth of fragments that would create that essence.
It's a lot more than that. When an essence is on average about 250k right now. So times that by 47.
250k? Yeah. Well, maybe on day 1.
Yeah, considering that they're like 1 in 3 to get an actual essence out of the fragments that you get.
I'm Gilgamesh still like 13k a pop for the fragments.
Are they that cheap now?
Yeah,
well, last time that I was looking,
gamblers are still expensive because people just want it for the collection, I think. But they don't need it, and you can't farm it with clusters. So
I'm at the market board. Let's see. Divinity is 15k.
Yeah, that's the
cheap now. Okay, well, week 1 they were like 100k plus each.
We had to trade them so after the first trash, you get 2 fragments. Everyone gets 2 if you beat the first trash pull. So everyone was just like, I've got 2 divinities for 3 clarity. Like, I'll trade you this. That's the only reason why we didn't lose our minds, because not everyone had clusters farmed up and ready to go. That was, or made time to farm them at any point. So that was always kind of a concern for everyone in the first day or so. But you split the raid in half immediately. 24 go one way, 24 go the other. And a bit of a mismatch, this part, in my opinion. Sly, which side did you go to, Sly, in your pugs?
First few, I did Golem.
but you have seen the other side.
I have.
Yeah, so the east side has it easy, and the west side, that's not like it's a bigger learning curve more than anything. It just has a much lower execution. It has a much higher execution demand. Like it's more demanding on execution than the other side is.
Yeah, definitely. You got the 24 gamers over in the Golem side going, "What is happening with the west side? This is so easy over here. Are they just bad?" You know, it's like you should come take a look for yourself.
Yeah, so
it's awful.
To catch everyone up, on the east side, the team has to kill 4 golems. There's 2 blues, 2 greens. I'm colorblind. I'm sorry if I'm wrong. And you have to kill them on platforms. There's a red, green, blue, white platform. They cast a spell that changes their color. If you let them cast it, it changes. If you silence them, it doesn't. But you essentially just have to let 2 of them change once. You kill the white golem on the white one, the red on the red, the green on the green, the blue on the blue. Some golems are spawning north and south the whole time, but as long as you just hold them where they spawn, they literally don't do anything. They each have their own mechanics. Like red will one-shot people if it gets in range of them. Blue does a super powerful dot. White tries to heal itself to full, and green only tries to eat other golems. But figuring that out takes about 1, maybe 1.5 runs to figure out that this is what they want you to do. On the other side is slimes. And that is a much I don't know why slimes is so drastically different in terms of what it's demanding. But on slime side, you have to kill 4. You have to get 4 slimes, make them big, 5 stacks of like a growing buff that they get from eating other slimes, specifically green slimes eating green slimes. And when they die, the button they're on only stays lit for a few seconds. And then you have to do that all over again to fix it. So you have to kill all 4 at just about the same time.
And they have so much HP.
Yes, they do. At the same time, you need to kill reds. And reds, if they fuse, insta-kill people. And then there's soldiers that must have been intended to do the mechanics, but nobody gives a shit. Because they can knock back the slimes, or they're just like, if you screw up, then I guess they punish you, could be the other thing.
Excuse me, Happy, but I have seen green slimes fuse with the red slimes, and it was perfectly fine green slime.
Okay.
I have visual... No, I'm obviously joking. It doesn't happen.
That doesn't happen. Okay.
It doesn't
Are you
make
just
a green
referring
slime.
to what was the conversation for the first 2 hours of Prague that us and Golem didn't hear? Is that what the conversation sounded like? Okay.
It triggers me.
I'm colorblind, and red-green is not a good combination of slimes to have, so I'm glad I wasn't fucking over there, because it wouldn't have gone so well. And it's just, it was terrible. Like they said, on Golem's side, we were like, all right, so is this negative 14,590? I think this is probably negative 14,590. That's how much metal
Zero
you lose
metal
for,
game.
Yeah, that's how much metal you lose for releasing is 14,590. And I'll never forget that. That number is permanently ingrained into my brain for the rest of my life. I don't know how much you lose for dying, but I know how much you lose for releasing. And it's not fair. Do we really think they didn't think this was mismatched? Or they just didn't care that like one side just seemed to have it so much worse? Or do you think that just them knowing the way it was designed made them go like, yeah, that's fine?
I think they probably actually underestimated how much or how difficult Slimes was to solve because of how many moving parts it has. Because it's actually really simple conceptually how to solve it, but getting to that point where you have all the information you need is actually kind of difficult. There's a lot of moving parts there. So I think it was an underestimation on their part as to why Slimes was so hard.
I actually wonder if they made a change to it late on in the development, because I do feel like the Rupture does not... I mean, the fact that it gives you a Doom stack telegraphs to me that that's not what you're supposed to do, and the fact that you basically couldn't avoid it. If you ran all the way to the entrance as far away as you could, it would still hit you. One of the corners would, unless you went all the way to the exit. But it was designed in such a way that the Doom stack is supposed to mean you screwed up. So it was intended to be killed, or I don't know. I mean, I think they were intended to be killed. But if that's the case, like, the damage requirement was insane, even with actions.
And the big thing with this is it's not so much that killing them before Rupture goes off is a problem. It's the fact that all 4 of them need to die so close together in timing That's the part that I don't know if they really fully understood was so dangerous, because then it just makes it seem like the rupture, it's not intended, but it's such an enormous what golems don't care. They just die whenever, and they're just like, all right, we'll kill small golems until the other side's done. And on slimes, it's like exact. You screw up even a little bit, and the golem side goes, all right, everyone line up around this trap. We're gonna wait till everyone's in range.
You also couldn't do anything like. I actually thought that initially that you'd get the slimes low, and then when they fused, they would still be low. But no, they made it so they get a full HP restore whenever they merge. So you're on a timer as soon as they start merging, and you essentially have to sync the timers and blow through this huge HP check in a really short amount of time. Like, relatively speaking, for 4 of those slimes. For 1 it's easy, but for 4. As I don't know. I feel like something was changed there, or otherwise, I don't know. It's really unbalanced.
One strategy I remember you guys were doing, this is Sfia. Sfia refused to accept those soldiers were not there for a reason. And I remember this part of your strategizing where you were like, well, they knock them back. It interrupts the rupture cast. So they clearly want you to use the soldiers to interrupt it and knock them onto the button to make sure you have enough time to do, which is still ridiculous compared to what the golem side has to do, whether or not it's intended.
I was so vehemently against that strat.
I actually think that's the intended strat.
I do
but
think
what
so,
I
too.
also think is intended that we didn't do is we didn't go in there and actually use actions and actually use essences when we were testing stuff. People were not prepared, so there were people without pure essences while we were figuring this all out. So we were missing just a ton of damage, which would have made that check significantly easier, which is more of a lack of preparation side of things.
That's true.
Because if people had gone in there with pure essences, those things would melt.
Or even just stuff like, Font of Magic and a banner or something.
Or death.
Like proper damage. Cooldown.
Or just death.
As well.
Death does work.
4 deaths would have worked. It would have worked.
I have to wonder if that's just what they thought. Like, yeah, just use death. It's fine.
I remember we just didn't like it because it was RNG. What if one slime resists, 6 deaths in a row, and it's like, well, you don't make the timer anymore.
And then that's all
It's
the
just
weight for it. And it's like, this is the very beginning. We can't revisit our weight. We have to carry those deaths with us for the rest of this. It's a lot of factors that led into moving away from that. What was your average experience with this in Pug Sly? Because golems, golems are easy, but man, if I don't have some peeves about people's self-control on that side, as somebody who called
on the golem side?
On the golem side, the self-control of some people.
I think we have pretty good self-control.
You didn't have any red golems just attacking healers in range because they're just like dot right as it's transforming?
At first, yeah, but people kind of slowed it a bit down. Like my experience is usually, take out golems in order, wait for the shout. Wait for the shout that says wipe. And then we wipe.
Truly.
It's strange to me that the only piece of communication is needed from Golem side is don't hit red. If I didn't hear
Don't hit
Happy
red.
say don't hit red, I was like, maybe they're wiping.
No,
But then you've got the
we would take-
communication
we would-
from Slime side, and it's like you've got so many moving parts. And
Northeast ready, southeast ready, southwest ready, DPS kill DPS kill times, move, time it.
yeah,
And what we would do was we would take red down to like 20%, and like everybody's like, okay, don't fucking touch it, just go do hallway shit, and then we would just wait on the wipe.
Yep.
Like, whereas I've done slime side, like slime side is just so goddamn involved. I'm like, okay, you know what? In order to kind of help this out, I'm just gonna stay and I'm gonna DPS the center mobs, the hallway mobs.
The soldiers, yeah.
We'll have one north, one south. I'll be south. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no. Finish your story. Sorry.
Okay. Like, we'll have one north, one south, and that'll be fine. Like, I can at least keep shit from getting knocked back into something. Meanwhile, like, all I just hear is just people losing their shit, or like, it didn't get silenced. Fuck. Right.
Oh, I've seen that happen. I know.
What else? There was just so much shit. There's so much moving parts on the west side, and I've seen it firsthand, and I'm like, oh fuck, you're right. This is Golem side is easier. Why the fuck would I want to come over here?
There's so few moving parts if everything goes right. Well, the problem is when something goes wrong, like 2 green slimes merging in the doorway, and you're like, okay, let's talk about handling this. Troubleshooting the problems. Oh, 2 red slimes merged, and now we need heavy DPS over here in Northeast, or it's going to wipe us. Have to adjust it.
Did you guys on that side ever have a situation where you finished your green slimes like really fast, right? Like you're all good. You're just waiting on Golem side to finish. And there's a red slime that may have met another red slime that's following behind. You ever have the slow moving big red slime walking towards you while you're all stuffed in the corner?
Yes, I remember anything like that, but
damn.
I
was really hoping for the Frankenstein slime. Frankenstein.
For my benefit as someone who's been on 99% slime side, what is don't attack the red golem like in relationship? Why don't you attack the red golem?
So the way it starts is there's 2 greens and 2 blues. And when they cast Metamorphosis, if you let them finish casting it, if you don't silence it, they transform. The order is always fixed. Green becomes red, becomes blue, becomes white, and then it loops back around. So because you have 2 greens and 2 blues, you just put them in the spot, don't silence 2 of them, you're done. The whole solving of getting the right colors is done. The red one resets aggro and tethers to the first person who hits it.
It's going to fixate. I see.
So it's going to fixate on a ranged, and it will kill anyone in 1 hit without Mana Wall. Even with Mana Wall, honestly. I think it hits for like 700,000, so like a non-tank, even without Mana Wall, would probably eat shit. And it needs to die on the exact spot. So what's the easiest way to do that? Tank and Vuln, hold it on the spot when it's almost dead. What happens when a white mage has that? They gotta fucking figure out how to make sure that thing dies at the exact angle, or they just need to accept they're gonna auto die, but it's on the button for the last like 5%. So it adds an executional error. It adds the only potential executional error in the entire phase. The only other one is letting Demolishes cast, which is the ads only demolish when you're waiting for the slime side to finish.
So once the red fixates, you're saying it drops the fixate at some point?
If the person it's fixated to dies, it'll do it by aggro.
Okay.
So if you kill that person, you can fix it. Or if you kill the red and it raises again, I think it doesn't refixate. I think it just continues to just go by aggro. But it's annoying when a summoner or a white mage is like running past and they throw like a dot on it right as it's casting Metamorphosis, and then all of a sudden you just see the tether reach out into the hallway, and now that person has to figure out how to get it back into the room because it's walking through this narrow little corridor, and they're just like, all right, kite it all the way up, kite it all the way back, and in here. And there's nothing you can do about that. You have to wait. You have to either sacrifice that person. One way or the other, that person almost always dies. It's rare that we don't just let that person
So you're
die.
telling me the worst catastrophe that happens on Golem side is 1 person dies?
Yes, exactly.
Oh,
and you know what? It's sometimes they're really just getting a head start based on how the other side is going. Because there's nothing worse than on Golem side than being told you need to wipe and everyone's re-raiser proccing at the same time. It's an absolute curse. I wish every enrage mechanic got rid of re-raiser in this content. Please just dispel all of our buffs when you're fully enraged.
Just let us click it off.
Or let us click it
you
off.
can't click off re-raiser. That's so strange to me. You can click off your essence, you can click off the dual buff, but you can't click off re-raiser?
But you know what you can do with re-raiser? You can accidentally press it 5 times and use them all instantly.
Nice.
Awesome.
I did that on my lion duel when I first...
I bound the re-raiser to a hotkey, and I've been waiting to hit to fat finger it, but it hasn't happened yet. I'm sure it will at some point.
It's scary. You're brave. You're brave, Kyo. So that's already like a massive difference between normal and savage. This whole extra trash pull with its own, it's the rewards are just a couple of fragments, but whatever. That was, at least for us, fairly important every time we went back in and had to prog on first boss, trash after that second boss. It was guaranteed fueling people without having them have to go off and cluster farm, which I think is a pretty good structure considering the Ludin Savages awkwardly limited compared to normal, like Sfia brought up earlier. The fragments are the only thing in the whole instance that can be traded amongst players when you leave or sold in any sort of regard.
Minion, but yeah.
The minion.
Oh yeah, the minion that when 48 people beat it and try to put it on the market board at the same time, it does great for trying to sell it. Fantastic. Mm-hmm. And then we all have 5 of them. Maybe shouldn't have made it 100%. Yep. Maybe shouldn't have made it 100%. But then you move on to the first boss, and you've got Ravana Savage. So, Sfia, you specifically mentioned normal mode feeling more like a trial than a 24-man.
Yeah.
For these bosses, specifically starting with the first one, how do you feel when fighting these?
They feel like easy extreme trials. It feels like a boss rush as opposed to a 24-man, because 24-mans don't really feel like bosses. 24-mans feel like the in-between bosses you get in Delubrum.
That's fair. Kyo, difficulty assessment?
I mean, there's a lot of 24-man bosses, like regular 24-mans, where you can just stand still for like the entire fight and just get hit by anything that comes at you and just live. And that just doesn't exist in Delubrum. If you stand still, you're dying. You're so dead. So, there's definitely more to it. I agree with Sfia. It's more like a trial. But I really like what they did with it. I'm a huge fan of Delubrum's, like, the way they designed it in terms of the Doom stacks, and there's way more mechanics. It feels like more mechanics than usual in terms of forcing you to react to them. And I like it. I think it's great.
You know what they needed to do, though? They needed to make it so the Doom stacks don't fall off between bosses.
I disagree.
All right, Satan.
Damn.
I don't. Yeah. There's already a Rise demand that is insane right now. Y'all need to go farm some compassions and realize what a pain it is being an Arise user and a Delubrum Savage. It's not, you can burn through so many, but no.
And that's a big thing. Sly made a mention during our normal mode talk, bring your pure essences. Realistically, with the way people do it, this is where pure essences need to start. Is as soon as you get to an actual boss past the slimes and the golems. It's more important later on, but I'd say as soon as you're here, if you're not using pure essences, outside of your first time getting there because you didn't know if you were going to get there, even then it should be in your holster and you're griefing for not having it. But that also brings up the next conversation, because Sly, earlier I mentioned to you there's some crazy combinations of different skills, and the pure essences are actually the key to that. When we first got them, we noticed they said they had unusual or unexpected effects. We were afraid, based on our experience with Gambler's Dice and other unexpected effects, that it was going to be bad things. That it was like, oh, if you use these, they're real strong, but something bad could happen. No, they're all good things. Sly, they're all good things. Some of them gooder than others. Gooder.
Yes.
Much gooder. Yes. More better.
Arise being one of the ones that we didn't know existed at first, even though I accidentally did it on one of our first pulls.
I accidentally did it on one of our first pulls too, because I was like, oh, we're going in. I'm going to be so bright and bushy-eyed, and I'm going to use a pure essence right off the bat. I'm going to bring Arises to help people. I'm going to be so useful.
Same. I Arise during the slimes. It worked at one point, and we didn't believe it. But yeah, that's one of those additional effects that was very pleasing to find out.
Now, some of them are, like we said, are great. I actually want to start with the bad ones. Because there's one in particular that's extra questionable. I'd say almost 2 that are extra questionable. So first of all, Pure Essence of the Gambler. I don't know if we really understand if it even affects the dice in any way.
It does.
It does.
Does it? We've done testing.
Okay.
All right. We've done over 100 dice collectively with Gambler on, and there are no negative effects at all except for one single Doom. So you've got like a 1% chance-ish to roll Doom, but you can't get the Toad, you can't get the Mini, you can't get anything like that. All you can get is a very slim chance at the Doom, or you get only positive buffs.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of healer LB3s with Gambler.
So many
lot
healer
of healer
LB3s.
LB3s with Gambler.
And they're not just a standard healer LB3. For people that don't know, it's like outside your party too. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's a full instance healer LB3. So
that also restores MP to
Yes.
people who are alive.
yes, so it is the ultimate of spells. But bringing Gambler here is also griefing if you're not the duelist winner, because you
I just chain die in the last two bosses.
yeah, unless you really want that 20% dodge chance to save your life, which Gambler, not that kind of Gambler, in my opinion. Not willing to take that risk. Then we've got Tank, which has one really efficient use I can think of, but is never going to be worth bringing outside of very suspect fringe cases. Indomitable Pure Essence works with Sacrifice. Now, Sacrifice was from Baldessian. It was the primary way you rezzed, especially if Cleese was in your party. So there was...
Yeah.
So it was, you would basically sacrifice your life to res somebody else. And then you'd have like a re-raiser. Back then it was Spirit of Remembered. Here it's re-raiser. And it works the same, but it weighs 19 in your holster, which at maximum is 80 if you did the quest. Do the quest, by the way. So bringing it's a huge commitment. Way more than bringing a Rise, which I think weighs 8, and it has the 5 chances or something like that. The Indom sometimes makes it not kill you.
Do we?
And it only has
percentages on that?
only has one stack. It's so bad.
Yeah, and it's only one use for the
One
19
use.
weight. Yeah.
Like, what, they think Sacrifice was too strong in BA? Like, I hated sacking in BA.
Yeah, chain sacks was especially because of how clunky Spirit of the Remembered was. This is especially the thing that made it the worst. You just bring 6 Spirit of the Remembereds and be like, please don't die. I can't do this. I don't want to do it.
Like, IMO, if you want to make that useful, it needs to not have stacks or have like 10 plus. And then we could realistically talk about lucking out and getting like 10 in a row. No doom.
Yeah. And
Then we're talking.
the only real situation I imagine it being like, the thing is, the only situation I imagine using Sacrifice is regardless of Indomitable. Because I think of like both your healers are dead and you can healer LB3. And you can guarantee, okay, healer's up. Healer LB3, I'm back alive. That's it. That's the only situation I can think of where I unanimously would pick Sacrifice over a Rise. And it's too heavy. You need so many other things to be as effective as possible in here that the thought of committing to Sacrifice just, it doesn't work. Then range physical.
Then again, how many tanks are filling up their holster?
Them ether shields, man. You know how many? Listen, the few times they didn't have ether shields, I've been so sad. So very, very sad.
Don't tanks take at most 2 of those though? Like one backup?
I don't know how much do they weigh. I don't know how much they weigh.
Don't know.
Question.
Offhand. I can look it up.
8 or 15?
8. Yeah, that makes sense because a Rise is another action that weighs. I figured it probably weighed around 8 there. Yeah, but I mean, I've seen them. I've seen tanks want to bring a lot of big DPS stuff, perceptions, then their own DPS stuff, then ether shields for the end. So the idea of them sacking what is anywhere from is almost a fourth of a full holster for that one fringe case, just maybe because I still wouldn't ask a DPS to bring it or a healer to bring it without even if you're not using, even if Indom wasn't a factor, I'd still only ask a tank to bring it because you have enough extra tanks across every party that it's not that big a deal, I assume. Then you get the saddest one, ranged physical. What were
I
they
don't know
thinking?
what they were thinking here.
Sly, what do you think the range physical one does? I actually want to hear what a complete, because you don't know what the range physical one does off the top of your head, do you, Sly? You shouldn't, because most people don't.
No.
If you had to
No, I don't
guess,
think I do.
if you had to, let me give you some. Actually, let me give you examples of the good ones, then you can guess what the range physical one does. Duelist makes Hone Sacrifice. The dot basically doesn't exist.
The dot damage.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't
And
exist. And
It
And it
doubles the
extends-
length from
yes.
15 to 30.
yeah,
Yes.
the boost. Mhm.
Doubles the duration of it. Amazing. Divinity gives a Rise a chance to succeed. not the greatest, but it avoids needing to rely on sacrifices. So, we always have a ton of those, and healers are going to have divinities anyway. You have the caster one, Elder, my favorite one, makes Cure 4 give a party-wide 1 minute 10% damage buff. It's 5% stronger than the normal bravery at the cost of only lasting 1/10 of the time. Definitely worth it, especially with the backup healing that it provides. Just a whole extra utility on top of that. And I think that's all the other ones, other than the ones I've named. Yeah. So with that in mind, what do you think the range physical one does, Sly?
The range physical is what, Fiend Hunter?
Yes, Fiend Hunter.
If I had to guess, it'd probably be like a. So you're saying this is the bad one?
This is the by and far the most. I don't know. Yeah,
I think it's just weird, not necessarily
I think it's
bad.
bugged.
It's just strange.
I almost think it's bugged.
If I had to guess, it'd probably be like an MP region.
You're on the money, but you're only halfway there.
Okay, there's another half to this.
There's another half. That gets 2 whole things, Sly.
I know. Well, I'm trying to think what the other thing is. Like, if you're saying it's like not good,
it's not just not good. It's downright frustrating.
It's a debuff, isn't it?
It sure is.
But a slow?
Yep.
Stupid. What the fuck?
It's stacking.
A stacking
slow.
Are you fucking serious? That's fucking stupid. Holy.
So, I think in hindsight that I know what it's for, but I have no idea why
For
it debuffs
memes?
you. I think the refresh is to let people use Font of Magic. I think that's what it's for.
Listen, I get it. Ranged physical is the thing the team reads most as a support role in this game. This was not the play. Bottom line. And don't forget that it's tied that MP regen slide, that's on a Cure 2. So you gotta slot Cure 2 into your bar if you're trying to give them that MP regen to that singular person that you are casting Cure fucking 2 on. In the middle of Delubrum Savage.
And slowing yourself in the process. Very nice.
Yourself. Hey, you know what, though? The other slot's Dervish. That gives him 1 haste. That's great. That 1 haste that you get from Dervish is, that'll make up for it.
And you said it's a stacking slow that...
Oh, yeah. 16 stacks, I think it goes up to.
Oh, you get
can
a lot
be
of
Asuna?
No, you can't Asuna them. No.
It can't.
Nope. That's your... No, like even if you could, would you really want to sit there assuming that person or bringing a med kit for it? Like,
the thing is, like, even if the slow didn't exist, would you really use that? I don't think you would.
Sfia would ask for it at some point if it didn't have a slow.
So it
wouldn't
doesn't
work on you
in
because Black Mage, yeah.
Doesn't work in Fire. No,
Yeah,
I'm
it
pretty
doesn't work in
sure
Fire.
its existence is intended so that summoners, red mages, white mages, all healers can use Font of Magic. I think that's its purpose. Also, so that there's some weird tech where you have a Dark Knight tanking, and they can just button and button and button and button. But that's it. I can't think of anything else where it has any value whatsoever.
Yeah.
And you just spam, and if you need the MP for font, you just spam ethers. So,
Yep.
or ether kits rather.
Yep. So as much as everyone else is doing cool shit range, you 100% need Fiend Hunter. Just worry about Dervish. Dervish is your champion button, and that's an amazing button, to be fair. But don't worry about the special effect on Fiend Hunter. Yeah, because I can't talk about it. It upsets me. I'm glad I don't play range physical in this one content in particular. It's just
It's just fucking stupid.
It's rare that I look at something and go, yeah, I'd rather play white mage. That doesn't normally happen when I think about what I play in 8-man content. No, here, glad I have a rise and reflect. First boss, solid intro. just less AoE markers, a few extra mechanics. They made sure the pace is up there. They took away a bunch of AoE markers, cast times, and it's Ravana Savage or Ravana Extreme 2 or whatever you want to call it. It's like extra Ravana.
Unreal.
Yeah, or not really with the way Unreal works, but yeah, I see where you're going. That's about it. Oh yeah, and I'm not saying don't use Fiend Hunter, chat. I'm saying don't use Cure 2 with Fiend Hunter. That's all I'm saying. After that, you get Dahu. We don't need to talk about. He's got like one extra thing. He summons ads, and you can kill the tigers. You have to kill the tigers like limit cut style almost, with the little markers over your head.
Yeah, in regards to mini bosses, Haps, you said they were kind of underwhelming, like the majority of them.
I think what Sfia said, where they feel like the least savage of the batch. I think specifically Dahu is the only one that really, like, Phantom is a matter of HP scaling. The HP is not in his favor because of Banish. But Dahu is like, if you get killed on Dahu, like, people are gonna see it, and don't let it happen.
And the healers are gonna get angry because you can't LB3 in that one.
Yeah.
So you can't, like in the other fights, you lose a handful of people. You just healer LB them back up at the end. Don't have to waste your rises.
Yep.
But in Dahu and Phantom and the Minotaur, you cannot LB3, and therefore it's just a rise spam if you die, and it's embarrassing and it sucks. So don't do it.
They're just the least. I think they're still well designed. I'm glad. I was ready for it to be more like Baldessian, where it's hallways and it's like roaming mobs back and forth. I really, again, using BA as the expectation, I really thought it was going to be that. They decided to go with it being more structured, and I don't know if that was a good or a bad decision necessarily, Sly. It was just the decision it was the one most familiar to us. It ended up feeling like you got 8 bosses and a few of them were or 7 bosses and some trash, and a few of them were easier. That ended up being how it felt, as opposed to a sprawling dungeon with, like, you know, maybe you go down a hallway and 2 demon walls pop out of the sides and like lock you in there and you have to kill them. Like, they could have done stuff like that. And I think that's a missed opportunity. I think that might be another thing that they maybe want to consider going back on and looking more at the more sprawling dungeon-esque feel. Although, you know what? People can't avoid fucking traps for their lives, so maybe I don't want them to feel like sprawling dungeons anymore. Because that's still a thing. After the first boss, there's traps. And that's the big thing. I'm talking about the mini-bosses. I was trying to get Dahu out of the way, because more interestingly, playing to the strength of the Bosnian front is a 1v1 that doesn't have to be done, apparently. You don't have to win this 1v1 technically. But winning it is certainly a boon to the party. We were not sure if it was necessary or not. I know last night RN did a run where the 1v1er didn't make it, and thus they had to... The rest of the run just went normal. So it wasn't required at any point, is what we definitely confirmed there. We don't need to talk about who it was. It wasn't me, because I wasn't there. But I know who it was. We don't need to say who it was. That's not fair. I know exactly who it was.
leave Cleese alone. We've already bullied in the show. Come on. Oh, wait. I just said who it was. Fuck.
Holy shit.
Oh, man. That's fucked up. Man. He's just supposed to not get re-raises. He's not supposed to... All right, never mind. But I love this. This plays to one of my favorite things about the Save the Queen content, is the introduction of the 1v1 critical engagements. And this is one that is starkly different than all of the ones. All the ones back outside was like, maybe you need Dispel or a med kit, and that's cool. This was an entirely different style of encounter that I felt was optimized on, and is a ton of fun to watch. And honestly, it still looks fun to do. No one's going to let me do it as a fucking white mage. But, you know, that's... Please let me do it. Just I'll bring Seraph Strike, Font of Magic. I'll bring Pure...
You could... If you keep a Profane on you, you can probably do it. And just have your Kohealer solo heal.
I don't think I'm ballsy enough to bring Profane into Savage. Oh, I'll have double the health, though. Right, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Then it's doable.
Yeah. Well, I want to do it.
Deep Essence of the Profane only.
Yeah, Deep Essence of the Profane.
Go big.
Seraph Strike. There's no fucking other place to use them now. What am I going to save them for Zadnor? I don't fucking care. Yeah, I want to do it. Trust me. It'll totally not be worth letting somebody else do it, but I still want to do it. All right? That's it. And man, this was cool. I love this. I love that it's so Sly, have you ever played or watched someone play Fall Guys?
Yes.
If there's a Fall Guys mini game in in this effectively, where he throws you across the room and he puts a maze of traps on the ground.
I've seen it. Yeah, and you have to bring perception for it. Yeah, I thought that was neat. I thought that was pretty neat for a fucking.
Yeah, you don't have to technically. But.
No, you can
Why?
press home gang and gap close across all of them.
Yep.
True.
I didn't even think about that. Holy shit!
You still need perception for a different mechanic though, so it's funny, but realistically, you will need that perception for another mechanic that comes a little bit later. But I thought this was great.
Yeah, well, I was about to ask, what did we think about them including 1v1s in Delubrum?
I think I know what Sfia is gonna say.
I kind of felt like the 1v1s in Bajja were in preparation just for this. I feel like they included in Bajja, they already had it set that we were doing this in Delubrum. So how do we feel about the 1v1s?
I think 1v1s in Bajja are great outside of the conditions to get in. So now that the conditions to get in are fixed and you can choose, it's cool. I would probably like it more if there was another one as well. If there was one going on at the same time as like the Phantom, that would have been cool as well.
Yeah, agreed.
It's strange that there's only one.
I was hoping there would be a second one, but yeah, sadly not.
Right.
After seeing the first one, I was like, maybe there'll be another one later, but no.
Well, because we knew there was another room that we hadn't accessed, so we didn't really know it was in that room. And there looked like there was more space for it in other spots as well, like spots maybe they had considered it and they just redesigned it, like rewrote it or something like that. This I think the only gripe I have, actually, I thought Sfia was going to say that, based on a comment he made earlier, that he was kind of upset that it isn't mandatory. You could technically skip it. You can not do it at all.
I don't think that's too bad. I think the reward is really good, especially if you put it on the right person. So it can make a really significant difference to your run. But the fact that it's not mandatory means that the entire run isn't entirely dependent on one person.
Yeah. It's not like the support group where in BA, if your support group, if it failed in any way, you were done, essentially.
Except imagine if your support group was literally one
person. I mean, that's what we thought it was. We really thought. Because that one person, if they lose, they don't. You're not just going to miss the buff. They have no way of getting back to the. They're done. They're done for the whole instance.
Yeah, their run is over.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you are down a man.
It's
a bit of a gamble, especially when you're first learning it. Like if you've never done it before, and you need to learn it. I mean,
it's actually easier than all of the 1v1s outside.
Yeah, I think so too.
Except maybe
Even Gabriel? Okay.
Yeah, maybe not. Well, I mean, extreme caution is a fucking scary mechanic sometimes, man.
The only problem with the duel inside of Delubrum is the plus entrapment, where you can just get really unlucky with them all being the ones that you need in different corners, like right in the corners, and revealing them is just a pain in the ass due to the range of your revealer. But there's nothing that's technically difficult to do. The amount of preparation you need for it. If you've done your homework, you one-shot it, essentially.
Yeah.
And like you can go into Lion, for example, have done your homework and still not have the movement down quite clean enough, and you'll die. That's not a problem here.
No. The only other thing that'll get you is forgetting there's a trap after you kill the Minotaur. There's another trap. You grab the buff, you run down the stairs. All right, that's my path back to my team. And
there's also a trap right before.
Yes, as soon as you land on the platform, there's also a trap. If you move an inch, you get literally a pixel off of its spawn location. So no matter what, you're probably going to touch it immediately upon landing on the platform.
You know, in hindsight, we got pretty lucky with re-raisers on that trap. quite a bit in our prog.
Yes. I don't think we ever lost Sano to that or Sfia. Well, by the time Sfia was doing it, I don't think we died to the trap.
I don't think anybody's run ended on that trap once. I don't think so.
Yeah.
Even though we had at least 4 deaths to it.
Right. Yeah. Thank goodness for that. Again, this whole 1v1 thing, obviously when we had our episode on the front, Sfia and I discussed how we felt about the entry conditions for the normal 1v1. I really hope they nail that down. They seem aware of it. They acknowledge that there's an issue getting into the 1v1 a while back, and they said they would make adjustments to it eventually. We just didn't see that in the hotfix from last night, which actually genuinely surprised me.
They also acknowledged that Castrum rewards was a problem, and it took them 18 weeks to fix.
Listen, they really only acknowledged it 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, they were like, no, like really, we get it now. Like, we're sorry. Like, it's.
Wait, but they did buff the duels. It's easier to get into them now. You just do them while everyone's at the Castrum.
Yeah, people actually go into Castrum now. Oh man, Sly, did you do Castrum? Have you done Castrum today yet?
No.
It's crazy, man. You know what the biggest problem with Castrum is now?
I figure.
Too many people. What? You can't get in if there's too many people. You have to hope you get in.
I got screenshots of 69 people registered for Castrum.
That's all I need.
Out of the 72 cap, and I'm just like, wow.
Nice.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, dude. You get 5 loathsomes for the relic, so it's 3 Castrums and you're done. You get 81k metal at rank 15, so it scales down. You get 7 million EXP at level 79, which is about 3 critical engagements worth, which makes sense because there's technically only 3 bosses in there. You get 100 coins from a full prisoner run, as opposed to the 26 from before. Plus, you can still get the outright augment drops, the field notes, any of that stuff. So,
to put that into actual numbers, the number of runs you need now has, for a full set of the augmented Bojang gear, has gone down from 135 to 35.
Yeah. So that should help.
Yeah.
That should help. I still wish it kind of dropped to like 30 clusters also, something like that.
But clusters are so easy to get. And I remember you saying that. And I'm like, clusters are so easy to get, though.
They are, but it's not about how hard they are or easy they are to get. It's about making cluster farmers look at that and go, and just give them that one extra reason to stop farming clusters. I don't think they always need it. But I'm just thinking of
a reason to stop farming clusters.
I mean, I would skip Castrum for cluster farming before they made these changes. And even now, I would probably still, if I was in there for clusters, I would completely abandon the idea of doing Castrum. So
it's just clusters are rough because you can't multitask anything else. Like you're just doing clusters.
And the idea of being able to multitask.
Yeah. You're not getting XP, you're not getting metal, there's no, you'll get a few memories, but not really. And that's just clusters.
Yeah, so if they have multiple reasons, they can I can get clusters and I can get the coins I need and I can get swap to a job I need to it just compounds the whole thing.
Yeah, my one major complaint about Castrum's rewards now is that sagacity is still only 3 per run. And as you do more and more Delubrum, for a lot of people, they're going to be a limiting factor.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
because they're the fonts.
Hopefully the market goes down a bit because there's a lot of people who run Castrum that don't want to use those. They'd rather sell those, and hopefully the price drops a little bit.
Or they're the people who just never use anything anyway, so what the hell do they care? They're not thinking about whether or not they sell it. They're just like, action, these are pointless.
I mean, as pre this hotfix, if you sold all the fragments, at least on Gilgamesh, from a full Castrum run, you made well over 200,000 gil. And it was that's crazy, man. So I'm just hoping that's not, now that there's this many people active, price should go down.
Fingers crossed. We get the second boss of Delubrum Savage, and some people call it a council. It's not. It's just 2 pairs of 2 bosses with a DPS check at the end. Council for me would be if all 4 of them were active at the same time. That's a council fight to me. But it's still a pretty big. I think this is actually the weakest boss in the whole instance. Once you've progged it once or twice, I think even the first boss is a little more impressive. But it's got a lot of visual flair at the very least. It's very. I'd say this is probably this and the 1v1 are the best examples of how much more demanding Delubrum is on actions, in particular. At least in BA.
This boss is what A6S is to A8S.
Yeah.
Because it's literally there as a teacher for Queen.
Yep.
100%.
Yep. And it's not, but that doesn't make it bad. I mean, A6 stood pretty well on its own. And I think this is fine on its own, but it definitely feels to me like the weakest overall encounter. It is for me more an action check in Delubrum than anything else.
I like it a lot because I'm the dude who presses Flare Star on 2 targets consistently. So
Well, at 4 targets at first, and then on 2 targets consistently for the rest of it. There you go.
yeah.
Yeah. Great. I don't get to do that. You know what happens to me? I have nightmares of those fuckers because in normal mode, I do a fully buffed Afflatus on all 4 at the start and they turn and kill me because tanks don't have aggro. So I have very different feelings about those fuckers at the beginning. So
Can we take a moment to appreciate, I mean, at least from my perspective, I like that it's not just stack and spread anymore. And in this fight in particular, the gauntlet of just unique mechanics that they haven't really played with before was very refreshing. Like the bombs and the way you handle that mechanic is really cool. There's different aspects to it, different things to look at, and you have to move differently depending on if you were above the bomb or below the bomb when you get raised into the air. It's very cool. And yeah, I still see people messing it up even after 30, 40 times having done the fight because it's dynamic. What you have to do is different pull to pull. And that's just one mechanic. And then there's all these other ones too. So I love the variety in that fight.
yeah, this
And the new technology.
oh, sorry. Yes, you were about to make the same point. So go.
New technology. This is probably directly in counter to their culling issues that they had in previous 48-mans or larger. They now show mechanics happening on you and only you specifically if they're player targeted. So instead of 24 tethers going out and completely ruining your screen, you only now see the one that's on you coming from the boss. And it's a pretty smart implementation of it, which just solves culling issues almost entirely by itself.
They did that first with the Castrum first boss, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, with the tethers, the magnetic.
The
tethers,
ferrofluid tethers up top are client.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
Yep.
I hadn't thought of that.
It actually blew my mind at first because I was like, why am I the only one getting targeted for this? It took me a while to figure it out.
Fucking same. I'm like, wait, why? Like, is this all me? Am I fucking stuff up for people? No.
Is this baited?
Yeah.
Right.
And I think this is important because anytime there's a major breakthrough in terms of the way they can handle a mechanic, or whether it be a one that the player accesses, such as introducing the Bunshin stacks. Now we see it with PB, may see it with things like Inner Release or Hypercharge or things like that in the future. They set it up and now they can use it whenever necessary. It's pretty much the same here. When you don't have to even consider the visual clutter because you're only giving the player the information they need, you're able to force more individual responsibility out of people, and that I think is healthier for design. You can do more creative things with it without having to worry about wormhole-esque information clutter on the screen, I suppose. Like, imagine if in Wormhole you only saw your number instead of everyone's number over their fucking heads when you're standing in the center there to try and bait something.
Yeah, it's just a little. I think it could just be a little confusing while you're still in that transition before someone tells you that it's not just targeting you, and then they're being targeted too. It's really confusing until you realize that. And that was the same with the bombs. I was confused at first. Thought I was the only one being tethered, and tether's on me.
Yeah. And you see a few people die, and you're like, wait, but I didn't see a tether. Oh, okay. I was picking it up. And yeah, I mean, other than the bomb, I mean, it was a lot of stuff that we've either only see a few times or they just make you do it slightly different. For example, a fourth of the boss's hitbox being safe and then it either being in or out. Like, that's not anything groundbreaking, but man, do you realize how many people don't pay attention to those things when...
It's not just not paying attention. In our group, we had so many seasoned raiders who've done...
Don't use the word. Come on. Don't. After all the...
Season
raider?
The season. That's an inside joke. There's an inside joke here. No.
Does not need to
what I
be expanded upon.
Nope.
You know what I meant? So we've done Dynamo and Chariot hundreds of times. In different fights, different iterations. This one was a very unique implementation that people that I've seen successfully do Dynamo Chariot mechanics, donut and out mechanics, were still struggling with this implementation. It was hard for them, and I still see people getting hit by it, and so I think it's a well done. Even though that's like the recycled mechanic, in and out mechanics, they did that one pretty well. It required spatial awareness. You needed to know where the boss was and what his hitbox looked like to properly handle the mechanic.
Also, positioning him correct. Like we will realize pretty quick that just leaving them where they spawned was inefficient, and moving them even just slightly over was a vast improvement over everything. Another thing is we've been calling one of those mechanics wrong pretty much the whole time. We called it lightning and wind. It's gravity and wind.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. But nobody questioned it because it's like how we call tiles and sand. We call them white and blue. It's like, what? In the first boss.
That makes sense, though.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an off-white, it's beige maybe, but...
I'm colorblind, and let me tell you, it ain't white.
No,
it worked.
Not
the
white,
call out worked.
Yeah.
That's all that matters. What else in this? Oh yeah, and again, this is just a huge. This is you know what I don't like it because I'm a healer, and you know who gets dumped every action that is mandatory for all the encounters? The fucking healers.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah.
It's all by design.
I still feel like that's an NA thing. I can't imagine.
Yeah.
Did they? I don't think they did that on JP.
But we're like, let the DPS bring all the super OP shit to kill the bosses fast. That is a very NA way of thinking, is let all the DPS bring all... Yeah, that's a good point there. That's...
Well,
great.
the first thing I saw that made me want to do that is that the healer pure essence was only 35% damage up.
Yep.
Yeah, no, it does make sense, and I do think we should do it that way.
Yeah.
The clutter in our holster, and I said this in Prague. Every other extra action you have me take is one less arise.
Yep.
So, bear that in mind.
Yeah. I honestly, that's the only reason why popping pure essences before going to the first boss as opposed to popping them after. I was like, I have to. There's no way I'm going into this with the extra weight of a re-raiser and this when I could have them popped before we even leave the first platform. You need... So this boss... I think this exemplifies something they didn't get all the way right with BA. You need Spellforge and Steel Sting for the first part of the fight, because they can become resistant to physical or magical. I'm a fan of that in the rest of Castrum / the zones. It's like they're weaker to one or the other, so maybe you want to bring one or the other, but it was never make or break.
This is basically immune.
Yeah, you do like 200 damage instead of 20, 30, 40, 50,000. So yeah,
It's a 99% damage reduction.
It sometimes even feels like it's more than 90. Like they put on some decimals at the end and said, yeah, we can make it worse. So you need Steel Sting Spellforge for that first part. You need Dispels for the first and theoretically the second part. We kind of overused Dispels in the second part because we tank Invuln and Dispel, which is not necessary, but is backup in case someone doesn't Invuln. And then you need... 6, we bring 6 reflects to make it like super brain dead for the last part, but it's all these actions that all need to be in place, plus not to mention before the fight starts, protect, shell. Luckily we have Elder Cure 4, so that cut out some of the bullshit in bringing braveries other than for the duelist. Thank God for that. That's the greatest realization that we made. Was the Elder Cure 4 thing, especially because it was 5% stronger.
For mages and summoners would
saves.
disagree.
It actually saves like 5 minutes per pull.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's insane.
It's a time saver. It's a holster saver for everyone except for... Listen, as a healer, I don't give a fuck if they're upset that they have to bring Cure 4. Do you want the 10% damage or not? All right? That's it. Think of the RDPS.
As a healer, you're also glad they're not bringing Noble Sack or Honored Sack and... Noble Ends and killing themselves to raid.
Yeah, you ever had so many Noble Ends when the room wides are going out? I have. I sure have. Oh boy. Yeah. But the second one, it's overall well constructed. I don't know. I'm just the least impressed by this boss. Other than it exemplifying that BA really wanted you to bring specific actions, but other than perception and like a couple dispels, it never really works that well. Like you can bring death for some ads and stuff, but like to reflect is a few cheesy things, but you can do all BA without with just perception dispel. and you'll make it through fine. This
boss also reminded us that players aren't very good at integrated scanner. The safe side. We can't do it.
Which also only displays for you individually.
Yeah, that's true.
Which I appreciate because I think of Return to Ivalice, Mustadio, you see everyone, so you can spot the people fucking up while you're waiting. Well, another big thing is those turrets overlap. The AoEs, so people would sometimes stand between two of them and just do it correct on one side, but then get slapped on the other side. So that's another thing. A bit of spatial awareness required on those automatic turrets. But then you're done with the second boss, and you're on to our resident punching bag of the Bossian Phantom. Who doesn't deserve it, because if he actually has some crazy shit that happens in that fight, we just don't bother with any of it. We just don't do it. That's it.
I have seen the ads skipped in that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was gonna say we're gonna quickly approach the skip ads or riot phase of that boss.
God.
Oh, more memes. God damn it.
Yeah,
Dude, it's such a big skip, man.
It's literally like a full minute off of the timer if you can skip it. So it's pretty significant. But essentially, you banish him. He has two very heavily scripted versions of his AoEs, ones that have almost no variation other than like maybe northeast or northwest for the very first one. And then ads, which benediction and some, or just even basic heals make it go real quick. It's a whole extra phase that isn't in normal mode, which I do appreciate. Here. And if you fail it, it's not an enrage, but it'll kill everyone and only re-raisers will get back up. It's unfortunately, it doesn't mean it's over. And then, but all the parts after that are great. You've got the random phantoms north or south combined with one of the two patterns that you can get from the north side. He has ice spikes that need to be dispelled. He has a tank buster that he uses. He still has room wide, and you just don't do any of that. You don't ever want to see any of those things, because if you do, it's not going to go well. So I'm warning you now, Sly. If you see ice spikes, stop hitting the boss. Because we had some people who went, "What's that?" I will never understand when people don't know what ice spikes is. That's a weird prospect to me. What does that do?
Isn't it on
Blue Mage?
Not just Blue Mage. It's on the level 34 dungeon.
Yeah. Hawk Manor. Hawk Manor has ice spikes. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, you're right.
I think one of the bosses in Castrum even uses ice spikes. One of the prisoner bosses.
Yeah, one of the prison ads. Yeah.
And it reflects on you. See.
Yeah, there are also level 9 mobs in the Shroud, and a bunch of Eureka mobs also had spikes that could be dispelled. I think not Skull. There's another one that has it. That's not Skull. I don't remember which one it is. But yeah, they're all over the place, and people just, these hurt. You don't want that. So if you can stop attacking for the barriers, you can stop attacking for ice spikes. And people sometimes can't stop attacking for the barriers. That's always unfortunate. The number of Assizes or caster LB3s I've looked at and been like, you are dead. It's brave. It's always brave. Third boss, though, again, this is our living liquid for most groups when they're progressing. We have Katy Perry. And this is probably the thing where we maybe haven't been mentioning that all these bosses, the major bosses, not the mini boss in between, other than the 1v1, which does have one, all have, I'd say, reasonably tight enrages for progression, at the very least. For like when you're seeing it the first time, you're going to feel real demoralized when it's got like 60% of its HP left, even with all the deaths that you have.
This one in particular was a big step up.
Yeah.
Queensguard and Ravana were significantly easier, but this one you get and you're like, oh, okay, we actually got to push buttons now.
Personal responsibility
As if you
mechanic.
weren't pushing buttons before.
Personal responsibility. Oh
Yeah.
The check was.
I was under
hard.
the assumption that many people were not actually pushing buttons, given how much HP that boss had.
I feel you on that one. Yeah. They're all about 9.5. I think the first boss actually is the longest in rage of 10 minutes, 2 seconds. I think all the rest of them are around 9.5 minutes, if not like somewhere in between 9.5 to 10. First boss also has the most health of, I think, 475 million think all the rest of the bosses have downtime phases, so their HP bars are a little bit lower than the rest of them. And this really comes to a head here, because this is a lot like the normal mode. I'd say of all the encounters, the normal mode for the first and the third boss are probably the most influential towards your success, whereas the last boss, having knowledge of the second boss, is your best chance for success. It's a lot of just getting rid of AoE markers and asking people to do the one thing that has never worked in this game, and that of fucking math. Again.
It is the most basic of math, though. It's literally, it gives you a 1 or a 2, or a -1 or a -2, and tells you to make 0. That's it.
But they're still asking you to do it. Here, okay. We're simplifying it a little bit, but that is correct. That is all it is.
You can do it on one hand.
Single digit.
You don't even need both of them.
I don't have -2 fingers. What are you talking about? This is 0, if that's what you mean.
If there's one thing that math class taught me, it's that people aren't good at handling crossing over 0 with addition or subtraction. It trips people up.
Yeah.
When you have +1 fire and you subtract 2, people get. I mean, I've seen it happen tons of times, just in math class. They'll screw it up somehow.
Yeah.
Something about crossing the 0.
It's more about variables, because it's get to 0, but there's at first there's only an X, and then they add a Y, and people lose their fucking minds.
Well, so it's like this. This is the mental process. It's like I got 1 fire. I got a 2 cold brand. So I'm at 1 fire. I'm gonna be at -1. I'm gonna be at 1 ice. Now I need 1 fire.
Yeah.
You see how I'm slipping? I go back and forth between fire and then ice, and then I need fire. It just confuses you, and then you go to like 1 ice, and you're like, wait, no, it's supposed to be 1 fire, and you explode.
That whole sentence just made about 200 people not want to do that fight ever. Everything you just said made at least 200 people not want to do that fight.
2 very simple, like, head cheats for you to do.
I think
First
of it
one
more
is
like,
don't think of them.
this. You ever see when people when people do that and they do, I can't do it like smooth, but I think of it like that, and then you just need to get it like that. There you go.
Don't think of them as hot and cold. Think of them as numbers.
Yeah.
So you're +1, you're getting -2, you need +1.
All right, it's like pop quiz.
Right.
Pop quiz. You got 2 fire, need to be at 2 ice. How do you get there?
I need to be at 2 ice.
2 ice.
Am I dropping? Am I dropping?
Yeah, you're going from 2 fire to 2 ice. How do you get there?
This is specifically on swords.
Doesn't matter the
Oh,
mechanic.
so
How do you get there? How do you get there? What is the ultimate result of how you get from 2 fire to 2 ice? It's too late. You're already dead. But how do you get there? What do you need? What number of what temperature do you need to go from 2 fire to 2 ice?
You need 2 ice to drop to 0, and then
2 ice to get to 2 ice.
Yeah.
You need 4 ice. Yeah.
That's
However long
why
it took you to figure that out is why
only
people
for
died
swords.
to it.
no, I'm like wondering, like, is there a trick to this that I'm missing? It's just
That's it. That's it.
Yeah, the phase can start.
I've never really died to the math on that in normal. It's just pretty fucking simple. It's just when you throw in like the debuff, the extra debuff that you get at the end, like in Savage, and then of course the fucking Jacob's ladder. Because fuck that shit. Like, at least in normal, it shows you the line.
Just turn,
in Savage,
Sly, just turn.
Just you gotta do this and
fingers, cursor strat or finger strat.
And then of course you do a forced march, right? Correct in that one.
There's in the second, so in the first one you need a quick march to pick the correct side to stand on. So like you'll need to march either to D or B. The second time you have the march as the ladder game is playing. Yeah. So
you need to find where you need to be and then get 2 tiles away from it.
And then make sure you're facing the correct side, yeah.
Like, I know the math, it's just I'm gonna probably end up in the wrong fucking square. for the Jacob's ladder.
In the wall is where a lot of people end up when it kicks off and you see somebody. It's actually really funny because the mechanic starts. You're seeing yourself go towards the correct spot, and you see someone who is going perpendicular to you, and you know that something very wrong has happened in that exact moment. A lot of people think of it too many of the individual elements, and it gets kind of overwhelming, is what I notice, because people go, okay, what is my math? Okay, I'm at 1 ice. I need to be at 1 fire. I need to get hit by the 2 ice one. Okay, I have quick march. Now I need to be marching to the right. That's going to be 2 tiles. I got to move to the right, so I got to make sure I'm facing the correct way. Oh, and now I got to play the ladder game. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I got to end up there. Oh, did I actually do that right? I don't know. Oh shit, my march is 3 seconds left. Let me make sure. Oh fuck, I'm in the wall. All right, I'm done.
That's it.
All right, I'm all set up. I'm turned the right direction. And Dia. Oh, no, I faced the boss. I'm in the wall.
I stopped casting spells there for that exact reason, Kia. I'm afraid
Auto-face target.
I have auto-face target on, and I do not want to die. And don't pop sprint. We've had people pop sprint, and it makes you run farther.
Oh, fuck, yeah.
Yep, don't sprint. Sometimes I would sprint. I'm just standing in the middle of the room, and I sprint, and I'm just like, why did I do that?
There was one time I had sprint up for force march, and I clicked it off just in time.
That's the real.
I forget from watching you, but I want to say that there's like, I wouldn't say enough fucking time, but like once your march is over, you have like maybe some time to kind of like adjust, like quick adjust.
You have about a quarter second. It's real.
Yeah, that's what
quick.
I thought.
I think on the very first one you have maybe an extra, like a full second to, like, if you didn't go all the way 2 tiles to get out of the death wall, the fire death wall. But on the second one, yeah, you have like maybe you'd have to be stopping on the line between 2 of them to possibly adjust.
I managed to between the lines and save myself once.
Yeah. And if you were, and I imagine it wasn't an across the arena, because if it was, you would have, the travel time probably would have killed you. I'd assume it was like a square or 2 over. Yeah. This boss, I love this boss, because I like when people need to be responsible for themselves. It frustrates me at the same time because I cannot make things better for people. But
Delubrum daycare,
man. And quite frankly, we've been really hung up on the maze, Sly. I think you'll find the maze to not be the worst part, because I think the swords ends up being the worst part, and it's not conceptually harder. In normal mode, she sits in the middle of the room, and the most confusing thing is maybe that that fire is on like the left side and she's swinging to the right. So like maybe your brain thinks like the fire, like that's the closest you get to confusion there. Here, she's swinging 4 different places. 1 spot is completely neutral, and then there's 4 basically like a cross of spots that only get hit by 1. And trying to communicate that doesn't always seem to stick. Because the rules are very simple, and Kyo, I think you can attest to this quite well in regards to watching people just stand really in questionable spots.
I mean, yeah.
And the number of times I've heard you in particular be like, please, next to the safe spot. People will be like, I'm next to it. I'm diagonal 1. And you're like, no.
I mean,
no.
What I usually say is the name and you're dead. Preferably before they die. Because it usually leaves more of an impression. Don't do that.
You want every other person to know whose name of the person who is dead. You're like, Happy, you're dead if you don't move. Okay, now you're actually dead. That's it. Kyo name by name calling people out for standing.
Unless it's like a whole bunch of people, and then it's just like everybody who's standing on blank, you're dead.
I'm more impressed that you have nameplates on in this shit. in all honesty.
A lot of times it helps to find marked tanks, or I don't know. I think it's pretty helpful. I like to heal a lot outside of party. Probably do more than most people do. So nameplate's important.
I use their health bars. If I see someone's health bar that looks sad, that's how I know to save them. Sometimes it's better for me to not know their names.
I will not be healing people unless they're tanks outside of parties, so I need to see the names.
Okay, that makes sense. I sometimes really want... Sometimes I try to rescue people outside the party because my brain isn't functioning correctly. And I'm like, I could save you right now. I'm targeting you. I could just press one button and that would be it. But I can't. Now you're fucking dead. And that's all there is to it. The swords, for me, is the most frustrating thing to watch people screw up on, though.
It's one of those things where it's interesting to watch the lemming effect when like a couple people have gotten it wrong, and then like 3 more people come join them because they think that those guys got it right, and then they just all 5 die. It's trippy to watch.
Oh yeah.
just do the mechanic, because I think that's less common, because I think it's more common to see one dude out by himself where it's just like, you really think there's just you there? There's a bunch of people doing this mechanic. There's 48 of us. You're not solo in a tile. You're probably dead. That one was more common.
Yeah, someone says it's another Fall Guys mechanic. Yeah, it's like if you're playing the fruit game in Fall Guys and everyone's standing on the strawberry and you're standing on the fucking orange. All right? If everyone's you are not the one person about to qualify. You're the one person who is about to be disqualified. All right? Accept it and hope to God you can actually get there before it fucks up all the way. That boss is going to be a time. Yeah.
But to be fair, just as egregious as the swords there is the dive bombs during the big old orbs.
Yeah. But I don't feel like that's egregious. If there was a march there, I would think it was egregious.
But I mean, it's like you get into their corner and then like everybody will be in one square and there's one dude off in a different corner in the corner, and he just gets mauled, and you're just like, what did you think?
It's like, I am here. Why are you guys over there? That square must be real popular.
And dead.
Yeah, that must be a party finder thing. Nope. You're dead. That's all there is to it. Now, you finish the third boss after several tries. Because nobody beats that in one pull. That is not a Dahu or a Phantom. This is serious. None of these bosses are one and doners, because that would be absolutely ridiculous. You then come to the very BA-esque trick, in quotes, of the instance, I suppose.
Can I quickly say that I called this before the boss, before we even beat the hot cold boss, and everyone made fun of me.
I didn't make fun of you. I just made a joke about it being a rat hole.
Yeah, everyone was saying, oh yeah, it's definitely going to be a rat hole you got to go through. Good joke. And I was right.
Why did both of my jokes have to stick? The season thing and the rat thing just stuck. The whole, and I was like, I hate that these things have stuck. I hate it. So, before the third boss room, there's traps on the ground. 2 of them we noticed were different. All of the traps up to that point were poison or explosions, unless you did the 1v1. Now suddenly there's 2 mini traps. Why? So Sfia, as he stated, said, probably need them to get past the next part. And he was correct. Because the queen, you can spawn her, but you can't pull her, I guess. You can. I haven't actually gone around and through to see what it actually. I don't actually know.
She didn't spawn for us at the right. That was bugged, I think.
She didn't spawn for us at the start because people had gone downstairs.
Oh,
If nobody goes downstairs and you walk into the room, she spawns, but she has that royal decree buff, which says something along the lines of her powers are increased tenfold or something. Essentially, she's unkillable.
Yeah, there's absolute virtue without doing the trick, basically, yeah. Because now the strategy is people spawn her, so their limit gauge resets, and then they kill the trash, and they have an LB at the start of the queen. That's the big brain strat now. But you need to have one person mini, and there's like a grate with like a statue. And then when they walk into the grate, it phases them to the other side, and then they take another step forward, and it opens. And another secret room is unveiled, another Savage exclusive trash pull. And a bunch of traps that people still step on, including one in the fucking hallway leading up to the boss stair, which they don't do throughout the rest of it. And oh boy, that's always great. I gotta love traps on the ground with 48 people. That's always gonna go on. And this was for me the most pleasant trash surprise. After Slimes and Golems, I was afraid for something else Savage exclusive, in all honesty. And we really thought this was gonna have something to do with the 1v1er, because it's the same type of mob. It's not the same name. I think it's a warrior, the 1v1er, and this is the Lord or something. I know the ads are monks, but we really thought this would be if you didn't do the 1v1, you're dead, essentially. But instead, it's if you don't do this, you can't kill the queen. And this is a big debated. on this one. This is like, wow, this starts really fucking easy. Why is this even a mini boss? And then he gets to 70% and he's like, I heard you talking shit, huh? I'm about to ruin this raid's whole fucking career. It's this. We talk a lot about having a lot of moving parts. This quite literally has a lot of moving parts. More so than I think anything else.
Was actually impressed how quickly things fell apart the first time we got to that section. Like, we just fell I was like, it's trash pack. Don't worry about it. And we just were annihilated.
Don't worry about it after an hour of talking about how we were worrying about it. Sly, you're muted. You're muted, Sly.
Yeah, I was there when when y'all were doing this, and it was like a straight hour and 10 minutes of conversation. I'm like, this is gonna be really fucked up when they get fucked up.
That's exactly what happened. Sly, I don't know if you know what happened with me in that 15 minutes in, I made a recommendation just that I wanted to test. I said, those traps are really suspect. Maybe we can kill the ads with the traps. It made sense. The way it was laid out, you had to essentially cut them on a trap. Wasn't how it ended up working. But I said that about 15 minutes into the conversation. We spent another 45 minutes talking about the logistics of it. I legit went and got a blanket and did this. It just took like a 5-minute nap that somebody had to wake me up from with an alert. Because this, by the way, if you're a gamer and you take naps at your chairs, if you're not doing this, you're not living life. All right, this is the fucking play right here. Okay, hashtag SteelSeries. Hashtag ad. That's the fucking play. And we died in 2 minutes after that hour of talking.
Yeah.
Fell apart immediately, as Kionu has alluded to.
I felt so bad for you. I'm sorry.
I mean, but that's Prague. I mean, that's learning. It's just that in this specific case...
That's Prague.
You take an hour to get back to the place you just spent an hour talking about.
Yeah.
So that was, and not to mention, we were still bravering before everything. So we had to, somebody went to go take a piss, re-bravery everybody. Oh, somebody disconnected, fucking re-bravery everybody. Oh, somebody doesn't like somebody clicked off their bravery, fucking re-bravery everybody.
So this fight in particular actually really threw me back to what felt like early Alexander and Coil Prague, where everything had a whole bunch of unique mechanics that it didn't explicitly tell you how it was going to function. You just had to do it and then kind of like figure out by process of elimination exactly what was going on with the things like the proximity tethers, with the slows on the boss, on the mobs, with the way that the orbs functioned. Those sorts of things, if they were implemented in a more Stormblood or Shadowbringers way, would be way more telegraphed about what's going on, but it wasn't. Which actually was what made that fight so, I guess, frustrating to Prague.
We only took 2 tries to beat it, technically. It's just that we spent that hour on the first one, because the second one was falling apart again. And then we made the revelation that the fire orbs were reflectable. And all of our DPS went, I'm going to kill the Minotaurs now. And that pretty much pulled it all back together. Because you need a Dispel for the Earth, a Reflect for the Fire. You need tanks for the Minotaurs. You need backup tanks in case they fuck it up. There's entrapments that are there, just like the 1v1er. So reveal those, invuln to run through those. And again, just a shit ton of moving parts. And again, if people die here, there are no LB3s. So getting through unscathed is more important here than it is pretty much anywhere else. And, and not to mention, then there's lightning AoE donuts and lightning AoEs dropping on people, and people standing too close to this. There's a debuff that pushes or pulls you. And if you get autoed by the Minotaurs, they're just like, you fucked up. That's the failed mechanic. You get doom stacks if we reach you. That's the mechanic right now. So, and then this dude's just fucking doing this in the fucking middle of the room the whole time.
Himself up the entire time, like that shit. Like, I don't know what the fuck he was on.
He's just fucking. I mean, to be fair, we're really surprised that something related to the Evil Easter raids is dancing with the way the construct does it, where he's fucking twirling all around while he's waiting for your ass. This dude's just fucking styling on you though the whole time. He just threw his fucking headphones on and put on his favorite album, and he's just bopping in the middle of the room. That's all it is. And then you get past that phase and you're like, oh, this is fucking easy as hell after. Like, before and after is just like, it's a fucking freebie. Have you ever fought a Minotaur before? That's pretty much all it is.
Still get surprised when people die either before or after, but it does sometimes happen.
The words respect the 1,111 ton swing, and when somebody doesn't respect it, I look at them and I go, how many of these have you fought before now? How many?
That first pull where we got there, and Shin had the buff, and he learned that he could ignore it anyway. No, that was the proximity marker. Never mind. He jumps in before the proximity marker is like done calculating, and it just decimated his HP bar, and he's like, "Oh, that doesn't kill me," and he just never respected it again. It just doesn't matter. He lives.
He does his best, and his best is doing something no one else is allowed to do. You beat this Minotaur and you move on to the Queen. A fitting final boss. The Achilles heel again of many, thanks to the very gimmicky mechanic that we knew was gimmicky from normal, but in normal it's a very manageable gimmicky. And then Savage becomes a mess of trying to explain to people how spatial awareness works in a way that is not uniform for every single person. I hope y'all like chess. Do you like chess, Sly?
No, I'm more of a checkers kind of person.
Well, he ain't gonna get kinged on this one. I can assure you of that.
Well, fuck.
So the Queen is a mix of her own fight combined with the mechanics of the second boss. Like Sfia said earlier, it's the A6S to the A8S, where the boss has a few things that are unique to them, but it's really about the moving parts from a previous boss combined that makes the fight what it is. The biggest thing that's unique to her is chess, which is where she puts you on a chessboard and she commands units to walk across the board and do a line AoE. That's her big thing. Ironically, we got really good at the difficult one, and then we still kept fucking getting hit on the easy one, and I don't know what was wrong with us. I don't know why we couldn't get this through our heads. Do you guys have anything to add? Because when we went through this every single time, it wasn't one pull. It was lots of pulls.
It's because it's two-dimensional. It's because the dudes are walking into the board, so there's two different directions to think about. The second chess is easy because they're all on the outside. So
and they're all going the same direction. They're all going counterclockwise. They're all moving from the second tile counterclockwise 2 or 3 tiles. I think they can possibly do 1 as well.
Yeah, they can.
But I never saw it. The rules for the second chess are much more set in stone. The rules for the first chess are like the Wild West.
There's a couple
you can
of
have a
orbs
dude who's
in there.
right behind you, just walk into the board right on where you are, and you just gotta move.
Yeah. And it seems like we're not the only... I've seen other people have the exact same problem, where it's the only one where they walk into the board, and it just blows people's minds. Just cuts out the number of safe spaces by an entire row, essentially, or column, depending on where they're standing. Sly, if you're going to have issues with hot and cold, this is going to be a whole nother ball game. You're muted.
Funny thing in normal, I never really... Yeah. Funny thing in normal, I never really had issues with chess, only the first time. And then, I kind of mapped out where I need to go. Yeah, from what I saw, it adds, extra steps that...
It makes you end in a specific tile.
Yeah. Basically, the whole mechanic has to end on either the north middle or the south middle tile. So,
right. And
you will always be 5, 6, or 7 spaces away from it, depending on your debuff combination. So
yeah, and the first move, you're going to get 2 Bomberman bomb shots through, or two rows get shot off, and then 2 columns get shot off after the second movement, or you know what I mean?
Yeah,
between the 2 movements.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for your starting location, you need to know what row is safe, and for after your first move, you need to know what column is safe, and then you need to make sure that last spot is the right distance away from the final spot. is essentially what it boils down to. And ever again, I will say one thing that's nice about this, in kind of the same way like swords work. If you are alone, unless you are like, you actually like fully understand the spatial awareness, there's a decent chance that you fucked up again. There's normally a pile of people with the same debuff in the same spot. And after you've learned it. So there is that somewhat benefit of most people knowing it can actually probably get you safely through it. Except for the 1 or 2 people who just decide, I'm going to go that way. And they're still right, but they're over that way. And that confuses the fuck out of people.
I think it's going to be one of those mechanics where if pugs want to clear it, you kind of just need to pick a strat and go with it for everyone. It doesn't matter if it's not the, the one that is completely optimal, because optimal actually doesn't matter in a full downtime mechanic.
Thank God it's full downtime.
But you take the one that works for the most people and you just force everyone to do it. Because we had some communication issues in there due to 2 different strats being called simultaneously in different formats, and it was just an absolute mess.
That's why you just like I'm a big fan of just calling whether the back wall is safe and whether the left wall is safe, and that's it.
Yep.
Nothing else. You should know what to do with that information.
I think in pugs, I think my favorite call is actually 5 is safe. Where 5 is safe. For me, that's the most valuable piece of information if I'm trying to figure out where I need to be. Because if 5 is safe in a specific location, it pretty much demands 6 and 7 have to be safe in one of 2 locations. So
the problem with that is that 6 and 7 can be in 1 location, but 5 can be in 3.
True. Yeah, I'm thinking more of our first strat, the very first one we did, where we had 5, 6, 7 were always.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, because that one for me. I mean, originally we just tried to quantify it. We called it triangle strat, where if you're in any of these, you're 4 away. If you're in any of these, you're 3 away, 2 away, 1 away. And so we just had to work. But I mean, that essentially became the basis for every strategy. It was working backwards from that information of where you would be on the second move. I think it was pretty neat seeing how people, I guess, quantified the space, but equally as frustrating to see people who didn't try to quantify the space to even like to try and figure out where all the moving parts were supposed to be going. It's a good mechanic that it kind of exemplifies what I feel like pug raiding is people doing a fight but not knowing the fight even if they can beat it. And that becomes much more evident, I feel, in chess and in hot cold as well. So that was made progging it frustrating at times. That's for absolute certain. Especially if key members went down that like needed to do reflects or dispels or tanks for invulns or things like that. Because the rest of it is pretty sure. I mean, you have a tank buster that is technically supposed to be a swap, but again, you just invuln it like most other tank mechanics. Specifically, Hallowed or Super Bolide, though, because it removes the doom, prevents it.
Apparently, what you do for that tank buster is you make your black mage eat it. Because
he did survive it with the damage buff. Sfia did indeed get it and survived. So yeah, that works. If your black mage has lost Flare Star, the damage buff, the damage and health buff from the 1v1, and your tanks all die, then you just let them take it, give them an Asuna, and they'll be fine.
Yeah. It's real fun. It's actually like a 400,000 damage hit. I would have died without Mana Ward, sorry.
Yeah. But you live.
Doesn't Mana Ward scale with your HP? So it's actually pretty busted with the pride.
It was a 95,000 HP.
Holy.
Yeah, shields are pretty busted with the buff for protecting yourself. You basically have, that's like double like a crit low. That's like way more than a crit low. Wish you could spread that. It's too bad fucking Adlos don't scale with that. Then you just get the double buff, and then it's too bad it's not double healing. I don't think it's double healing. Pretty sure it's just double damage HP. So it's juicy though. And then it's a bunch of I won't even call them trios. They're all duos, essentially. Well, trios if you include the boss. Yeah, then it's just a bunch of trios, pretty much. And then a reflect and dispel phase. And it's all very standard, other than the chess. It's just a bunch of mechanical dances that require knowledge in advance. But they're very dangerous dances.
One of the dances is literally exactly the same as normal mode.
Yep.
Except
stillness or motion.
It has and people still die to it. But yeah, it's not that much of a step up elsewhere outside of the chess mechanic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The biggest step up is honestly the damage taken. If we've been stressing pure essences up till now. This is not just pure essence territory. This is pure essence, ether shields, addle, reprisal territory.
You will live with just pure essence and aether shield, but it's gonna hurt. You'll be like a few ticks from dead from the bleed.
And the scariest thing, honestly, Kyo, something we didn't bring up about the divinity pure essence, doesn't increase healing.
Right.
So everyone has 150k HP, and our heals are exactly the same.
See, I like it because it incentivizes you to do something like Banner of Solemn Clarity, which was the solution we found.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that there was a motivation to, because I complained about that fairly early, right? That it's actually super annoying to heal the raid with all these pure essences because it takes so many GCDs to heal everyone. And then they actually made that relevant.
Yeah. And then we got Elder Cure 4, and that helped a metric fuck ton.
It did.
Yeah. I cannot understate how much I love Elder Cure 4. It is by far my favorite one. So, if you have it, use it in normal, and everyone will be impressed. Tell those people who bring Brave Rage, like, I don't need it. I got it. You'll be the hero. Trust me. Or just bring Flare Star and say fuck it. Or bring both. Fuck it. But yeah, then that's it. You beat Delubrum Savage. Good job. You've now got a mount that makes no sense for the content, but it's really cool.
I'm still really confused about that.
Everybody is. Everybody seems to be confused about Cerberus. The fact that it's a four-man mount, which would normally be reserved for your box station or online store. And two, it's Cerberus, who, again, it's not the Cerberus we see in Baja. I call that Cyberus more than anything. It's more World of Darkness Cerberus.
It literally is the World of Darkness Cerberus.
Yeah, it is.
And its music isn't the last boss music; it's the critical engagement music.
Yeah.
So,
but it is very impressive looking, and I've actually gotten so many messages about that mount since I've been running it around. That people really like it. So
much like Ozma, I think it's not as cool as Ozma is the big thing. I feel like the Ozma mount, it made more sense first of all, and it also is the more aesthetically pleasing mount. Whereas Cerberus is like the gaudy, look what I've done. Just everyone on everyone's screen mount. It just doesn't make sense. I mean, her bike was the most. This is the Titan ATV all over again, where we got the fucking Sky Slipper for beating Titan when he has a perfectly workable car.
But at least the Sky Slipper was in the story.
Yes.
The Cerberus is just completely unrelated here.
Yeah.
What I think would have been cool is if you actually got to ride on the Queen's Guard, and if you were walking, it was one of them. If you were flying, it was another one of them. If you were swimming, it's another one of them.
And then no one cares about the last
one.
No.
You mean kind of like a mount roulette of the Queen's Guard?
No, think of it
just
like
one
Ozma.
Of them that like
Ozma is a great example because like Ozma's a ball and then it's a cube and then it's a pyramid. I just wanted the doot chair, which there is a barding from normal that turns your chocobo into a doot chair, but I wanted the actual doot chair.
Barding?
Yeah, there's a barding from normal mode for your chocobo. The Queen's barding.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I got that in the hairstyle on the same run.
This may be a bit out of place, but is there actually a visual difference besides the weapon between the gunner and the soldier?
I think it's the same with the knight and the warrior. The knight and the warrior, I think, are technically the same. But there's no visual. There's one has an axe, one has a sword and shield. I don't think they're different, but I have to look closer.
Okay.
One different and interesting note that was brought up. I was on Etherite Radio on Saturday. The Queen's Guard, the lore for them backs us up. Has the Zodiac Brave weapon. The gunner has the Zodiac Brave weapon. So that was a nifty little lore call out to that right there.
There's also all of the weapons are in that raid except for the Astro and what was the other one that was missing? White Mage, I think,
That
and
makes
the
sense.
books.
Yeah.
But the hot cold boss has the bow, has the staff, has the sword and shield. So all the weapons have representation in there. There's just a couple of them actually missing.
Yeah, and that's considering the lore. It's nice, cool little lore shout out because it is consistent. We were wondering kind of where those things were, and they didn't abandon it completely. So it was nice to see that. Okay, so we beat that awesome, great re-clears. Oh, re-clears.
Same problem.
Yep. It's like we hadn't even beaten it before. No, it's not entirely true. But there's a few issues, yeah.
So in our group in particular, we had a lot of people, more than 48, participating in Prague because we were rotating people in and out. So a lot of that was bringing in a lot of people that had experience but hadn't actually cleared.
Mm-hmm.
So while it was a re-clear, it wasn't a re-clear because there's a lot of people they'd helped us but they hadn't cleared yet. And so you run into the problems. You think it's a re-clear, but it's not actually. And then there's a lot more spaghetti than maybe you're expecting.
Yeah.
Our first re-clear was 19 new titles, or 19 new achievements.
We had another one that was 11, I think. But then we had some that were only like 3 or 4 that were wipes. Yeah, so it was
just the way it be.
It was really all over the place. But for me, the bigger thing is re-clears calls back to the problem we addressed when we first started talking about it. It's 48 people. And that becomes the biggest problem because, let's be honest, we're raid and be doners most of the time. That's like when as soon as they called Ultimate was done, I guarantee you all of our motivations to raid were largely eliminated outside of maybe interest in playing with friends, or maybe like a gear piece or a glamour piece here. I think that's a fair call out to make, unless you would because Keo likes to raid way more than I think any of us do, and I don't know how he fucking does it because he's a monster. But
the only motivation to raid now is to get best in slot to level faster.
Yeah.
And Endwalker. That's it.
Yeah. Unless you're Keo, who again raids way more than anyone I know, and I don't know how he does.
It's just about the people, man. I raid for the people, not for the content.
Just hanging out. Champ.
Just hanging out with friends and helping people get their stuff done.
Keo is now the people's champ. He's now the Rock. He's now Dwayne. You are now Dwayne. There you go. Getting 48 people to be motivated to do re-clears is tough.
Are we talking the same 48 people or
enough of the 48 people to either A, just do the re-clear, or to B, get the people who still need clears.
Mm-hmm.
Any either of those conditions. Because we essentially bum rushed re-clears instead of trying to find like a night of the week where people could have plenty of advance. It was every night gauging interest. Can we do it? Because we know the truth. The longer something's out, the harder it is to get people to do it.
Unless you incentivize it. Which I do not feel Delubrum Savage has adequately accomplished because of reasons Sfia has already mentioned in this show.
Yeah, agreed.
So there's one other thing missing from that, though, and that's the potential changes in the future to gear, which they have talked about, the developers have.
Yes.
Essentially, my understanding of what they've said is that like elemental gear was there for Eureka, there's going to be an equivalent for Delubrum.
Yeah.
And Bullshit.
That isn't our haste
gear.
To be more specific, that's not our current haste gear. Like something, they said if you can't beat Savage in 5.4, get the new gear in 5.5, which implies you don't need the augmented stuff to then get the 5 point, because that wouldn't make any sense. Yeah.
So it's going to be made easier by us getting stronger. So if you haven't cleared it now, sort of thing, you can go in later. But I think if people are like sick of the content right now, they want the achievement at some point, but don't want to do re-clears, that's probably your best bet. Go in and just smash it out with everyone being ridiculously overgeared. So we'll have to see what updates come with that, though, because maybe they then at the same time increase the rewards, because Savage feels really lacking in terms of what you actually get out of it outside of the mount.
Yeah. Or, dyeable judge gear.
Yeah, essentially, my biggest gripe with Savage is that you're spending gil to go in there. You don't make back what you spend. Because only the fragments are tradable, and, you're using a lot to go through.
To be fair, that's in line with normal Savage, but it's just different from... It's another result of, again, the Coil to Alexander comparison I made to BA to Delubrum, in that all the valuable things were put in the most accessible portion, because it's the thing that most people would do. And then everything else is still... You'll spend money to go into Savage Net. You'll grab a whole crate. You guys fucking drop shit for ornate bodies every time, so you know what it's like to spend gil to go in. Here, it's not a one-time purchase. You might have to keep spending gil in order to keep going.
But it's like, why? I mean, right now there's still sort of the newness to it, but
yeah,
there's just not a whole lot of reason to re-clear Delubrum Savage over and over again beyond getting a gear set that you don't need.
Yep.
Cool. We got +2 haste gear. You can grind that. You can't grind. I mean. What do you need that gear for? It's just excessive at this point.
Glamour.
The dyeable portion of it is the most important. The haste is not to mention that before today's hotfix, if you wanted the Savage gear, good luck if you tried to get it before today, you either had to get really lucky like me, or you had to do a lot of fucking skirmishes because you needed so many coins or to open your wallets. So, yeah, I think they might need to revisit this. I mean, honestly, it's kind of the theme with Save the Queen. It has a lot of really cool extra things, but the incentivization to do them feels not like Memoria. I love Memoria. It was a really neat extra extreme fight we got. No fucking reason to do it. Unless you really want dyeable artifact gear. Again, same as this.
And it's kind of odd. It's kind of odd that even at this point with every step of the relic, Memoria, people are doing Save the Queen. They're doing the storyline. Why didn't they add Memoria as one of the things that would give you, memories or anything like that?
And to boot Sly, if you have the Delubrum step active, the one that asks you to get 15 time more artifacts, you do not get one when you clear Savage. So they couldn't even give you that. It's the one thing.
Which is weird.
Yeah.
So, in my opinion, Savage modes of anything should give you, if not the same things that the normal mode does and then some, or it should give upgrades to it. Kind of like how the Savage Oracle drops the Gaia minion.
Yeah.
The same as the normal mode. That kind of thing. You're not missing out on that Gaia minion if you only ran the normal mode once. You could still get it from the Savage. But not to Delubrum.
Right. Yeah, it's weird that the last boss, I'm not saying the last boss should drop the mount or the hairstyle, but it wouldn't be unreasonable for players to still have a chance at getting those things from clearing the final boss. Even if it was the exact same chance, at the very least you could go through Savage and walk out. Instead, the best you get is maybe you get an outright augment from a boss instead of a plating. That's about it. And then you get another foot,
which you can't trade.
Which you can't trade. And then maybe you just get 5 foots off of the final boss on your 5 re-clears, and you hate yourself.
Yep.
Or gold coins, even. There's not even silver or gold coins. Yeah, it's all over the place.
Those foot augments you get, you then have to either do a lot of castrum or spend a lot of gil to even use it.
Yeah. If they were sellable, I think it'd be fine. I think it's reasonable enough that the ornamental augmented stuff, the piece that lets you actually do the upgrade, should be sellable. Again, I think it's better to have stuff that's sellable to get people who can't access this content access the stuff to help them do this content. More importantly, than it is to get the people who can already beat it more haste. Creates a market, and it's the cycle of content, essentially.
I can see that, yeah. Although, I mean, I don't know. I feel like it should still be grindable out. If you're going to make it something like that and make it sellable, then people who don't have it should also have a way of grinding for it slowly outside of it. But that's my opinion.
Yeah. Well, other than that, it was a fun experience. I think they've proven at this point that they can do large-scale raids. Not to mention it was great to have one instance all interconnected as opposed to a bunch of different trials. I think that that doesn't get enough credit. I know that we like to say they won't do it any other way, but they show that they can.
Yes. So one of the biggest questions I had going into this is like, are they going to have technical limitations on the things the bosses can do because it's all one instance? But from what I can tell, absolutely not.
Yeah. In fact, they made strides specifically to accompany that when Cactuar went in here with the only targeting the one individual person, the client-side mechanic showcasing.
Oh, I meant more, not necessarily the sheer number of people in there. I meant the fact that
it's all in one instance. But I feel like that might even help with the load of the display load is probably one of the issues that gets into that and any sort of limitation. Yeah. So they've shown they can do it. They've now done it 2 expansions in a row. You know, we'll probably have another Castrum equivalent and not another DR equivalent for the rest of this expansion. So, you know, this will probably be the last sort of example we have of that until 6.x when we see whatever else they're going to do. And I just wonder if people see this, if this ever impacts their design choices for other content. I don't think it will, but it's at least, I wonder if they will do it even in something that's not just our normal Savages or our normal Ultimates or the 24-mans or something. Like, I want to see them experiment with more continuous, large-scale operations like this one.
Yeah,
and you know,
it's so much more immersive.
We know they have the technology to do checkpoints and instances because they did it in the very first coil, where people would skip ADS. They'd like say, "Hey, can somebody give me a checkpoint past that? I don't want to do that." So they have all the technology. We've seen it all from the beginning to the end. I wonder if they can put it all together, or if they decide to put it all together at some point, and just make a more immersive experience. Even in normal mode, just walking through was a nice thing, and they don't even have that anymore. So, I'm just hopeful, Mr. Hopeful. That's all it is. And with that, I think we can wrap up the show. We went over quite a bit with some of the tangents that we had, but it's nice to be able to discuss these things in an elongated format.
Or vent, in your case.
Listen, I didn't mean to oversleep by an hour, Sly. It was an accident.
I know. It's okay.
But the coffee was really good.
I'm glad they at least gave us something difficult after the Eden's Promise was over with. If they're going to remove the ultimate, we got something that was challenging and fun. Yeah, that's all I'm going to say.
So now what do you do?
Wait till 6.0.
Unsub till 6.0.
I won't. I actually have a lot of things I want to work on in game. I've actually found I've been playing more in Shadowbringers than pretty much any other expansion. I have one more mount to get for my Dragon God mount in Diamond Weapon in 5.5. I have my World Class Troller title, which I forgot to get on the boat for 49 minutes ago. That is 3 million ocean fishing coins. I need it. It's think of the title. Still Blue Mage also, technically. So still the Blue Mage Savage to go as well. And story to finish up. And other than that, it's just going to be grinding out whatever they finish up with. Zadnor in 5.5, but it's going to be a busy gaming season coming up anyway. Sly, you already know. We've got Bravely Default, Monster Hunter, Outriders. There's like a billion things coming out in the next couple months. New World got its release date / beta date today, July 20th for beta, August 31st. It couldn't have asked for a better time, by the way, just to shout that out real quick. August 31st. We're not expecting the expansion until fall, late September, early October, maybe. Several, about a month to tide over towards the very end there. So
I will be in there.
Yeah. So we've got plenty to occupy us and to keep us excited, and just to patiently wait for the next Savage tier, next Ultimate tier, and whatever else they've got in Endwalkers for the hardcore end game. But with that, I think we can wrap things up. Unless any of you have some closing comments on 5.45.
I have one thing.
Okay.
I'm really sorry to the 75 people who DM'd me this week asking if Grand Company set bonuses work, because I put them on just literally for that exact reason. I joked. I lied. I'm not sorry. It's hilarious. You got absolutely fucking just... Of course it doesn't work. Test it yourself.
Sfia, do you know how many people asked me why I was wearing a one-handed wand and a shield?
Oh, that one works.
That one works, though, yeah. But the sanction buff was ultra troll. Especially going and grabbing sanction in between wait times.
It was worth it.
That was great. any other closing comments on 5.45 Delubrum or whatever?
Kyo, you good?
The only thing is, I didn't finish saying something at the very beginning that I want to just clarify now. And I was talking about how how much I didn't want the doom to persist between bosses that Sfia said. It's because I know people would kill themselves and ask for a raise to get rid of it. And then you would end up spamming all the arises away.
That is so true. Yes.
And it's just like, please, save my arises. But you know they would.
Yeah, but
or they would just walk into the death wall on purpose and be like, healer LB3, please, at the end of the fight.
Yeah, that wouldn't upset me as much, but people can't remember the fucking essence at the start. They're not gonna fucking remember to do that. Or they are gonna remember and be wondering why they can remember that and not to bring the fucking essence at the start.
I feel like the damage down stacks are like a sticker you're trying to get off of you. You're like, get it off, get it off, get it off. That's more of an incentive than remembering to bring your juice.
I've never wanted to get a sticker off of me that bad, Kia. Like, get it off, that fucking banana, I didn't mean it. It's on my skin.
But imagine if you get 2 stickers on you and then you just die.
That's going in the highlight. Hey, sometimes it's 3 stickers. Twice comes sticker, thrice comes sticker. There you go.
Is that the new debuff now?
Yeah.
Sticker?
Yeah, twice come and thrice come. Keel, why do I need to hydrate now? Why does that have to come up right now?
Look, every time I get 1,000 points, you're hydrating. Every single time.
No, that had something to do with the stickers. Sly, any closing comments? Any of your hopes and dreams on Primal?
Hopes and dreams. No. Again.
Hopes and dreams. No.
No. Again, it's just like I just want to really just get as much time with it as I can. Get in, get my mount and whatnot, and get the fuck out, and not have to worry about it again. So if you're in Primal and you're running, hi. How you doing?
So enthusiastic. You should see. You see if Miz has any open spots. She's been making really solid progress. She just does like maybe 2-3 hours a night.
I know. Yeah. I know. I might hit up the Miz. Yeah, I'll be hitting her up.
Yeah, they're making pretty good progress so far. Why so many hydrates? Because I'm thirsty. Anyway.
Yeah, he is.
No, I'm not. Hey, listen, we're not going to get into that right now. You're the thirsty one, though. Anyway, thank you for joining us, Kyo and Sfia. Hopefully you didn't mind going over time by a decent chunk, and hopefully you enjoyed the discussion. Oh, I would hope. I'm not going to...
Yeah, thanks for having us.
I'm not acknowledging that joke in the chat. I'm not seasoning right now. That's not what's happening. The joke doesn't need to leave raid. It just doesn't. I'll explain it at a later date.
You got all these spices. All these spices.
Sly, you don't know the joke? I wouldn't say that. Anyway, regardless, that's a reminder that we started this stream with my OBS completely breaking, so I am not going to go to a different scene while we do these sign-offs right now. So, guests, thank you. Kyo, what are you up to? Where can they find you at?
In the rare occasion that I stream, it's twitch.tv/Kionu. And otherwise, probably on the Radiance Discord, which is public.
All right. Very simple outro. I love both of your outros because they're very simple. Kyo, stream more, by the way. Anyway. I demand it. I demand it. Sfia, where can they find you at?
There. It's in your chat.
Oh, he was ready.
Yeah, in the chat. My man says, yeah, in the chat as his outro.
Wow.
Okay. All right.
Wow.
That would be twitter.com.
That's like someone saying... It's like someone saying scoreboard. Like, yo. Like...
Oh, man. Yeah, fuck you, audio listeners. There, in the chat. What chat? All right, yeah. Twitter.com/FFSfia and twitch.tv/Sfia. So for any audio
There you
listeners, type those in or just Google him because that's what I always tell people anyway. Oh man! And apparently, chat's gonna be waiting for the Sfia League streams. That's apparently the thing that needs to happen.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I don't know why.
Salt
but-
mines?
Yeah.
You going into the salt mines?
I don't think I have the patience anymore. I'm too old. League is a curse that I think I've escaped finally.
Proud of you.
Yeah.
Retired
job.
from there.
Good job.
Just play PoE instead now. That's it. That's
I
the
actually
deal.
might get back into that.
It's a good
To
decision.
see.
Oh shit.
Decision. And Salai, my partner in crime.
Hey. How you doing?
Sly, quick story for you. Remember when we went to Howlin' Rays
Hell yeah.
pre-pandemic? You remember
Mhm.
who the owner asked us about? Mr. Llama SC, fellow streamer, said it was his favorite, stream Diablo.
Yeah.
I didn't know he wasn't full-time. He just announced full-time today. He streams so much
Oh, shit.
that I thought he was full-time. I just shout out to that. I was thinking about you because I missed hanging out with people.
I know, right?
I want to go back to Howlin' Rays with you, Sly. They gave us so much more food than we could humanly eat.
Right. The fuck?
Bonding moment right now with Sly.
Jesus. Right.
Where can they find you at, Sly?
You can find me at twitch.tv/Sly, aka Gray Fox, Twitter at Sly the Fox. Currently this week and half of next week, kind of busy. Right now, doing Fallen Legion and Revenant on Switch, and of course Friday.
Strikers!
There you go. So yeah, I'll be putting hours into that. Normal, not even normal, hard new game plus. So yeah.
My man said we ain't doing a show on Friday. We can't do a show on Friday. I got my
Impossible.
strikers. My man knew his priority.
Impossible.
Had to make it work.
Once that embargo lifts,
All for it.
oh,
It's go time, baby. All right. And finally, myself, I suppose. Mr. Happy. That's it.
yeah, just
That's it.
you know where you can find him.
The thing is, if you're watching
Here.
it, I don't need to tell you. That information is worthless to you. So,
You can find him here
yeah, here.
and in chat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it can't be like Sfia and say chat.
Yeah, because it's
you can
my
find him
chat.
here.
I can't be like, hey, let me link my Twitch in my chat real quick. I don't think
Right.
that's not going to work. But it was a great show. Thankfully, we managed to avoid the technical difficulties during the actual meat of the show. And I got to get 8,000 points towards my 3 million. So, you know what? I consider that a win-win-win across the board.
There you
So,
go.
I can't leave
Job.
this scene. I can't risk it breaking. So we're going to technically do our 2-3 minute post show on this screen, and I'll edit the outro in because I'm still scared of OBS breaking. So thank you everyone for joining us. We'll see you next week. I'm still trying to decide between one of two shows. So I need to check with guests to see if it's going to work, and hopefully I'll let you know. I'll DM you.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
I'll
Perfect.
DM you. I'll DM you with what the plans are. But thank you everyone for joining. We'll see you next week. And until then, bye-bye.
See you next week.
Bye bye.